Chapter 308. Looking at the young girl on the ground who was crying her heart out, Zhu Yao's expression darkened. Who are you? Don't cry. Wah. She cried even harder. She was the one who wanted to cry, alright? Comrade, did you take the wrong script? Who the hell are you? The young girl was startled for a moment, and then, her tears flowed even more ferociously. This was the first time Zhu Yao understood what was meant by tears flowing like a river. Wah. Yao Yao forgot about me. I'm so sad. My heart hurts. Don't cry. Fuck, I can't even persuade her. She cried so hard that she hiccuped. Zhu Yao could not help but soften a little, as she took 2 steps forward and stroked her head. Don't cry, alright? Tell me, who are you? Only then did the young girl sniff and stop her heart-wrenching howl. Her pouting mouth was so wide that a piece of wax could be hung on it. He burped a few times before he managed to control his emotions. He raised his reddened eyes and looked at her pitifully. He opened his mouth and let out a cry. Gee. Zhu Yao was startled. What did he mean? The young girl immediately became a little anxious. She pulled her hand and pointed at her nose. Gigi. What the hell is Gigi? Why did people suddenly switch to a foreign language when they were talking nicely? You're bullying me for being uneducated. She's a wood spirit, his master suddenly said. What? Zhu Yao suddenly turned around. Her face was filled with disbelief. Master, she. Yi Yan nodded. It's the wood spirit you planted in the desolate lands back then. This is the wildlands. Zhu Yao looked at her surroundings. As expected, other than the tree in front of her, the entire place was a wasteland. She lowered her head to look at the young girl in front of her. Indeed, her entire body was filled with spiritual energy. Furthermore, the aura was extremely familiar. Are you really a wood spirit? Gee. The young girl cried out again, feeling wronged. You managed to cultivate a human form? Zhu Yao felt gratified. She did not expect that she would still be able to see it here. Yao Yao. She plunged right into Yao Yao, and hugged onto Yao Yao's waist tightly. I missed you so much. I missed you so much. You said you would come and see me. I've waited for so long. Ugh. She really couldn't be blamed for this. The schedule was too busy. Besides, she couldn't buy a ticket back. I finally see you. Realm Spirit really didn't lie to me. You really came. Realm Spirit. Zhu Yao was stunned. You know him? Did he tell you I was coming? Amen. The wood spirit nodded heavily. He said that you're nearby, and that he'll definitely be able to see you this time. Sure enough, I saw it. Zhu Yao's heart sank, and a strange feeling rose in her heart. When did Realm Spirit tell you? The wood spirit was stunned, her beautiful eyebrows knitted together. He told me when I woke up. Then how did you know him? I've always known him, she said matter-of-factly. When? She tilted her head and thought for a while, but she couldn't seem to find the right words to describe it. Anyway, we know each other. I knew him when I found out. When would he find out? Zhu Yao's face darkened. Other than the river of forgetfulness, it was the second time he heard the word realm spirit from someone else's mouth. However, the other party's identity was becoming more and more mysterious. She couldn't find any clues at all. Rubbing the wood spirit's head once again, Zhu Yao expended a lot of strength. Wood spirit, I have something to ask you. Wood spirit, I have something to ask you. Zhu Yao's expression sank and sternly said. Tell me honestly, that soul-assimilating banner in the cultivation world, and the matter of sealing people's souls in their bodies and turning them into puppets, were you the one who did it? It tilted its head and pondered about this question. With a curious look, it said, Yao Yao, what's a soul-assimilating banner? You don't know? Zhu Yao was stunned. Wood spirit only wants Yao Yao. The wood spirit waved its hands at her. Hug. Then why did Wu Hua call you master earlier? Zhu Yao turned around, wanting to seek confirmation from Wu Hua. Where's he? After searching for a long while, when she raised her head, she saw him hanging on a certain tree branch with a body full of injuries. The spiritual energy in his body had completely dissipated, and his eyes were rolled back. His head was facing upwards, and his mouth was like a small fountain, spurting out blood. Earlier, when the wood spirit sprinted towards her, It seemed as though it had indeed pushed something away. She might have used a little too much strength. Zhu Yao instantly felt a sense of powerlessness, as though she had prepared a huge amount of equipment to fight a boss, but before she could even raise her blade, the other party had already committed suicide. Yao Yao, you're talking about Sesame? The wood spirit pointed at Wu Hua on the tree branch. Sesame? Which part of this thing looked like sesame? He called me master, so he's Sesame. The wood spirit explained with a stern look. So there's actually a relationship in this world called master and sesame? Just what did you learn in the years you stayed in my divine sense? How did you get to know this sesame? Zhu Yao changed her way of asking. He came in himself to let me know him. The wood spirit explained. The wood spirit said that Yao Yao would come, so I waited here. As I waited, she came in. The wood spirit explained the entire sequence of events. And after Zhu Yao finished listening, her face darkened. In summary, this was the story of a silly young lady being deceived. The wood spirit said that Zhu Yao would appear in a world near the desolate lands. In order to meet her, the wood spirit opened an exit in the cultivation world. It was that stone wall in Tranquil Valley, waiting for the day she would enter the desolate lands to see her. In the end, before she could see her, the heretic practitioner who took over Wu Hua's body came. The wood spirit was a spirit formed from wood spiritual energy in the first place, and had a simple personality. After just a few words, the heretic practitioner found out that she was looking for someone. In order to leave the desolate lands, the heretic practitioner pretended to serve her as his master, and agreed to look for her in the cultivation world. If that was all, then she could forget about it. However, the wood spirit just had to give her a portion of her own origin energy. The consequences were imaginable. This heretic practitioner could be considered as a high-end technical genius, and had utilized this portion of origin energy to its limits. She actually managed to research the soul control art, the human practitioner puppets, the soul assimilating banner, and the land of heart demons were all created by her. However, she was unlucky. In the end, she was the one who saw through it, and she was even sent here by him. This sesame is a good sesame as well. As expected, she brought Yao Yao to see me. The wood spirit did not have the slightest awareness of being deceived. She even waved at Wu Hua with an especially brilliant smile. Sesame, thank you. Wu Hua's reply was, Pooh. She vomited blood even more happily. For a moment, Zhu Yao did not know if she should pity the wood spirit, or pity the Wu Hua. Zhu Yao did not stay in the desolate lands for too long, before returning to Yuan Shell sect. If she stayed any longer, most likely, Wu Hua would really die. Though she had done many evil deeds, it was not her turn to make a move. No matter what, she had to hand it over to the exterminated Yuan Shell sect to be dealt with. She had the wood spirit retrieve the origin energy in her body. She even told her that she could not hand this power over to anyone else. Not even herself. The wood spirit agreed with tears in her eyes. She hugged her thigh and cried for a long while, unwilling to let her go. Zhu Yao's mouth was already dry from all the talking. She just refused to let go, and cried her heart out. The wood spirit doesn't want to be alone. I'll stay. Little Eighth suddenly spoke up. He flapped his wings and flew onto the wood spirit's shoulder. Little Eighth. Zhu Yao was startled. She immediately objected. No. When did he become so compassionate? Seventh elder sister. If I say no, then no. Zhu Yao frowned. You're still a young bird yourself. I won't be at ease if you stay here. Tisich, you speak as though you're very safe by my side. That made sense. She was actually speechless. Seventh elder sister, I'm not young anymore. I already have the memories of 2 lifetimes. I'll be fine. Little Eighth said. Furthermore, the wood spirit has the aura of a parasol tree, which is very beneficial to the phoenix race. Other than this, I don't know where else to go. Perhaps there will be other phoenixes who sense it one day and will come over as well. When that time comes, I won't be alone. Zhu Yao's heart ached, and she did not reply. Yet, she faintly knew in her heart just how low the chances of 2 gods appearing in the same world were. Seventh elder sister, don't worry. I'll be fine. Zhu Yao spoke for a long while. Yet little eighth seemed to have steeled his heart and insisted on staying here. He was right. Staying by her side was instead the most dangerous. Only the heavens knew how many more bugs were waiting for her to fix. And in the desolate lands that only had demonic beasts, it was actually safer. The wood spirit was the vitality of this land, and no living creature could harm it. If a human practitioner were to barge in little eighth, who had suffered once, would not fall for it so easily. In the end, she had no choice but to allow him to stay. The tree and the bird stood on the same spot, waving their hands for a long while. Only when Zhu Yao's figure slowly disappeared into the open space did they finally put down their hands. They stood there blankly for a long while. She left. Amen. Will Yao Yao return? Yes. I really feel like crying. What should I do? Shut up. That's my Yao Yao. That's my 7th elder sister. Wu. Stop crying. Don't you know that crying is contagious? Wah, a long while later. Little eighth, are you going to build a nest on my body? No way. Then how are you going to sleep? You're so annoying. After returning to the cultivation world, Zhu Yao immediately handed Wu Hua to Sect Master Gu. As for how she was going to be dealt with, she was not clear. However, the various sects and clans in the cultivation world had held meetings for several days, conducting in-depth discussions and research on this major sect incident. They had even formulated a series of emergency deployment plans, and had even summarized several experiences and lessons. After this incident, Nest Chazarei sect had suffered a huge blow, and even their old nest had been destroyed. Coincidentally, though the old nest of Shell Door sect was still there, its people were gone. She did not know how Chu Jiang and Sect Master Gu discussed, but the two sects actually merged. Together, they were known as Shell Door sect. One had people, while the other had lair. This could be considered as complementing each other. And the one who became the sect master was actually not Chu Jiang, but Sect Master Gu. Due to Yi Qingsong's outstanding performance in this battle, he had become the sect's main target of nurturing, and his reputation had risen even further. Little Tyrant had even become the new idol of the sect. Not just Nest Chazarei sect, even the other sects and wandering practitioners were revering him to the utmost. Initially, Sect Master Gu had wanted Little Tyrant to stay in Shell Door sect, but he did not agree to it. Instead, he followed Hualin to Wandering Practitioner City. Such a choice was something to be happy about. Shell Door sect already had Yi Qingsong. A mountain cannot contain two tigers, unless one is the attacker and the other is the defender. Apui, a male and a female. Zhu Yao thought about it in hindsight. The disappearance of the bug word on Yi Qingsong's face was most likely related to his own changes, and his way of thinking. Until now, she still could not understand just which of her words had touched his G-spot, causing him to give up the chance to become a cruel role model. Granny, are you going to Wandering Practitioner City? Yi Qingsong asked. Emin perhaps? Now that the bug had been removed, she suddenly felt free. What about you? Do you have any plans? He smiled very brilliantly, and his brows were filled with magnanimity. I have created a new mixed mystic art for Pentaspirit Veins, and I plan on teaching it to all Pentaspirit Veins disciples in the sect. Zhu Yao was startled. She knew that Yi Qingsong had a new mystic art, and it was mentioned in the storyline as well. It was also the biggest reason why his cultivation had risen. She never expected that he would take it out so easily and teach it to others. Just like what Granny said, I want to learn to trust someone wholeheartedly as well. Zhu Yao was stunned for a moment. A moment later, she patted on his shoulders. Good luck. She suddenly felt a sense of accomplishment, as though her son had grown up. When do you plan on taking in disciples? The next time the mountain gate opens. Not bad, student Little Tsong. You're going to become a teacher so quickly. Then in the future wouldn't I have to call you, Song? Sensei. Little Tsong, are you really going to take in disciples? It's not too late to back out now. Not just anyone can become Sensei Tsong. You have to be careful, young man. Zhu Yao suddenly felt a refreshing aura coming from the sky, and she could even faintly hear a cracking sound. The sky seemed to have brightened up quite a bit. The heavenly door has opened. Yu Yan suddenly spoke up. Zhu Yao was startled. Heavenly door? What did he mean? A white light flashed in her bosom, and her master suddenly appeared on her sword. He raised his head and looked at the sky. The heavenly door of this world has just opened. Ah, has the heavenly door ever happened? Yu Yan reached out his hand to stroke his stupid disciple's head. He sighed and said, "Do you know why no one in this world has ascended after so many years? I don't know. Could it be because I'm ugly? Currently, the heavenly doors in the higher realm that lead to the lower realm have all collapsed." What? Zhu Yao was stunned. She knew a little about the collapse of the heavenly door, as she had seen it once in the higher realm. However, that was just an exception. Just how long had it been since then? And the heavenly doors of the 3,000 worlds had all closed. But the heavenly door of this world suddenly opened again earlier. Yu Yan frowned, and he looked puzzled as well. Before the two of them could even wrap their heads around it, a ray of guidance suddenly descended from the sky, and directly struck onto the two of them. Master! Zhu Yao grew anxious, and immediately pulled onto his hand. The group of people who were planning to return to Wandering City were shocked by the sudden appearance of the ray of guidance as well. Grandma! Little Tyrant looked dumbfoundedly at the two people who were enveloped by the heavenly light. Yu Yan sighed. He hugged onto Zhu Yao's waist and forcefully pulled her into his embrace. He lowered his head and pressed it against her forehead. Yao, this matter has ended. Let's head to the higher realm together. It was still best to tie his disciple to his side. Chapter 309. She felt her body loosen as she flew towards the end of the sky. This was the first time she had ascended to the upper realm through proper channels. She could not help but feel a little nervous and wanted to give an acceptance speech or something. The sky became brighter and brighter, and a vast expanse of whiteness appeared above their heads. Her master's figure next to her grew fainter and fainter. Suddenly, he turned around and planted a kiss on her lips, and said with a sunken voice, "Hurry and return to Lightning Divine Hall. Your master will be waiting for you there." Zhu Yao nodded, and only then did his figure completely disappear. Most likely, he had already returned to his main body. The light grew even brighter, and Zhu Yao simply felt her little heart thumping wildly. As long as she passed through this white light, she would arrive at the higher realm, and she would be able to reunite with her master. She would finally be able to properly date someone. She suddenly felt that the world had become even more beautiful. Zhu Yao's entire body was surrounded by white light, becoming brighter, brighter, brighter patter. It was completely black. What was going on? Is there a power outage? What happened to the beautiful new world? Ding. A dialog box popped up. You are now offline, please choose. Change account login, give up login, or complain Zhu Yao. That flips table. Realm Spirit, wash your neck clean and wait. The dialog box flashed, and a new line of words appeared. User has chosen to complain. Entering chat mode. The screen shook, and a familiar QQ chat box immediately popped up. Realm Spirit, welcome back. A young girl. The bug was fixed to perfection. 5 points, my dear. Realm Spirit, huh? What's wrong with you, young lady? What's wrong with that black face? Realm Spirit. Young lady, why are you taking off your shoes? Ah. Don't throw. Don't throw my face. Realm Spirit. Why are you still throwing it? That's by Yuan's Naiden, hey. Young girl, Realm Spirit, don't throw it. If you have the guts, take out your chest pads and throw them at me. Realm Spirit, damn. You're really digging. After a while, Realm Spirit. Young lady, I was wrong. Tell me, what the hell are you doing? Why am I doing fine after ascending? Why are we here again? Realm Spirit. I just don't want the girl to be too tired. Pay attention to rest and log off in time. Strike a balance between work and rest. Zhu Yao clenched her fists and pressed down with force, releasing a loud cracking sound. Speak human language. Realm Spirit. There is an emergency bug, so you are forced to go offline. Fuck. So I was murdered by you this time? Realm Spirit. Sigh, young lady, I have no other choice. You understand. Spirits have 3 needs. Scram. I'd be a fool if I believed you. What's so urgent that you have to make me go offline? He knew who this time's avatar was. How hard do I work to maintain it? Why did you log off just because you said so? Thinking back to the time when she was beaten up by pervert Chung to such a state, she still managed to get through it. After using an alias for a long time, there would still be feelings, alright? Realm Spirit. Young girl, the bug this time is really special. That world was already on the verge of collapse. What can I do if I go? She didn't finish her sentence. Suddenly, a video window popped up on the screen. There was chaos everywhere. The earth quaked and the mountains swayed. The spiritual energy was in chaos. It was like a movie about the end of the world. Even the cultivators flying in the air were unable to escape. The whole world was shrouded in the fear of death. Zhu Yao suddenly recalled the scene when the God Race's world collapsed back then. However, at that time, she had opened the world crossing gate, but there was no life in this world. This is the world where the next bug is? Realm Spirit, yes. This was the scene not long after. Young lady, if it wasn't an emergency, I wouldn't have forced you to go offline. Please work overtime. Zhu Yao rolled her eyes at him. In the scenario you gave me, which world wouldn't end up like this in the end? Realm Spirit. Young lady. This time it's really different. It's extremely dangerous. Think about it, Kojima. Could it be that right now I still have a choice? Zhu Yao coldly laughed. Realm Spirit. The screen was silent for a moment, and only after a long while did the next line of words appear. Realm Spirit. Yao Yao. I'm sorry. You don't have to apologize. Zhu Yao smiled. Because I won't accept it. This time, she was really angry. In her previous resurrections, at the very least, most of them were because of her. She had always told herself that in a certain sense, Realm Spirit was actually saving her. But what was this time? Did he think that she was dying too slowly, so he decided to kill her first? Then what did he treat her as? A puppet that could be sacrificed at any time? As a person, he couldn't be so shameless. Realm Spirit. You keep saying that we're friends, but is this how you treat a real friend? Zhu Yao took a deep breath, yet she could not suppress the anger in the depths of her heart no matter what. If this goes on, I wonder how far this so-called friendship can go. The screen was silent for a long while, and the next sentence did not appear. After a long while, the screen flashed, and suddenly disappeared. A human figure appeared on the spot. This time, it was the figure of a woman. The woman's face was very familiar, because she looked exactly the same as her own. Yao Yao. She called out to her. Zhu Yao did not respond, and simply turned her head away. She did not even want to look at her. Realm Spirit lowered his head, and walked over with a guilty look. I'm sorry. I've said it before, I won't accept it. She was silent for a moment, and then gently said, I know you have a lot of questions and are very angry as well, but there are some things that I can't tell you yet. It's still too early for you. This time, I was too impulsive. I shouldn't have treated you this way. I apologize to you. I promise I won't do it again. Her face was filled with sincerity, and only then did the anger in Zhu Yao's heart dissipate a little. Realm Spirit smiled, and looked straight into her eyes. With emphasis on every word he said, But Yao Yao, please believe me. I have never thought of harming you. If there comes a day when you really don't want to stay here any longer, even if I have to use all my strength, I will send you back. Zhu Yao clenched her fists. In the end, she took a deep breath, and could not help but push his face away with her palm. Don't use my face to say such disgusting words, hey. Ho, young maiden, you're clearly enjoying it. Seeing that her anger had dissipated, Realm Spirit once again returned to that scoundrel look in a second. Scram. Don't be like that. Help me fix another bug. Because the difficulty has increased, this time, I'll borrow comprehensive technical support, and a generous reward. Make it clear, what kind of support? What kind of reward? You're always giving me a shock every time, alright? She suddenly snapped her fingers, and in an instant, a screen appeared in the air. On it was a certificate. Do you still remember this plane movement permit? Do you want to make one for Master? She had returned to this godforsaken place because of this. Her expression stiffened. I can help you submit an application to the Plane Movement Inspection Bureau. Tizich. She could tell with a single glance that she wasn't reliable. It's true, young maiden. You must believe me. My credibility is very high, and there's a high possibility that my application will succeed. My success rate is as high as 3.8%. Scram. You actually have the cheek to say 3.8%? Young maiden, don't be so heartless. Are you still going to fix the bug? So much nonsense. Fix it immediately. Realm Spirit hurriedly nodded. The revival loading bar instantly appeared in front of her eyes. Realm Spirit had a reluctant look. She pulled out a small handkerchief out of nowhere and crazily waved it at her. Come back soon, my dear. She suddenly had a bad premonition. Chapter 310. When Zhu Yao woke up, she was in an empty room. There were no furnishings in the room, only a bed. The bed was exceptionally exquisite, carved out of spirit jade. Just by placing it there, one could feel the overflowing spirit qi. The floor was paved with an unknown stone material. It was snow-white and seamless. One look and one could tell that the owner of this room was very rich. However, there wasn't a single person in the room, while Zhu Yao was currently lying on the beam. The resurrection point was on the roof beam. Wasn't that a little too high? She almost fell when she opened her eyes. Fortunately, she had quick reflexes and grabbed onto the beam. Otherwise, with the height of the roof, she would have been badly injured. After examining the terrain for a long time, she slid down the pillar. With Realm Spirit's integrity, the first thing he did after landing on the ground was to check his avatar. At the very least, she wanted to confirm his gender. She grabbed his belt and was about to pull it open to verify his identity when she looked down and saw two tall, snow-white peaks. What is this? Zhu Yao clenched her fists a little unbelievably. It would hurt. It was hers. Boobs. She actually had breasts. He could see it just by lowering his head. For the first time in several lifetimes, Zhu Yao, who felt a weight in front of her chest, was instantly excited. The undulating curve of the waves, the towering sea level, was at least This is not a dream, right? If this is a dream, please let me quietly pinch it for a while. Suddenly, he felt that no matter what Realm Spirit did, he could be forgiven. Wait a minute. Based on past experience, if one's figure was over the mark, then their appearance would not be a negative mark, right? Zhu Yao's heart sank. Calmly circulating the spiritual energy in her body, she realized that this body had actually built its foundation. He immediately summoned a water mirror and took a closer look. When she took a look, even Zhu Yao herself took in a deep breath. His looks were off the charts. This was completely illogical. Even Zhu Yao was a little unable to describe what kind of face it was. Even words like captivating the birds and beasts, obscuring the moon and shaming the flowers were insufficient to describe it. Even when she was reborn as a god, she wasn't this beautiful. If one really had to use a word to describe it, it would be too beautiful to be real. Did Realm Spirit find his conscience? He was suddenly so nice to her. She couldn't get used to it. I'll let you enjoy your beauty for a while. Glancing at her face in the water mirror, she pinched her breasts. She could play like this all day. He remembered his mission. Zhu Yao had no choice but to endure the pain and silently put away the water mirror. Currently, she had yet to receive the storyline, so she decided to first head out and take a look. The house was very big. Zhu Yao quickly walked a few dozen steps before arriving at the door. Just as she was about to pull it open, a ding suddenly sounded in front of her, and a conversation window popped up. Congratulations on successfully activating the 5 minutes race mode. Zhu Yao. What the hell was a 5-minute race? Olympiad math? Before Zhu Yao could figure out the situation, the conversation window disappeared in a flash. She did not pay much attention to it. He pulled the door open. A ray of white light shot toward her and hit her in the chest. She felt a sharp pain in her chest. He was sent flying backward. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. His vision turned dark. Ding. The dialogue box appeared again. Congratulations, you have achieved the achievement of the shortest time online. You have been online for 5 minutes. Go up and hang up. Obtain title, Black-Faced. Zhu Yao. Flips table. What the hell is the achievement of the shortest time online? Why was there an explosion talisman outside the door? Why was she reborn in such a dangerous place? Why was she able to change into a beauty avatar after much difficulty? She had her breasts now, and her face now. Just when she wanted to quietly be beautiful for a while, she was really only allowed to be beautiful for a little while. Realm Spirit, come out. I will beat you to death in front of you. Ding. The effect of the 5 minutes race mode activated. Countdown begins. 5, 4, 3, 2. In the next moment, she simply felt the scene in front of her eyes flashing. Just as she was about to take a step forward, her feet stepped on empty air. Just as she was about to fall, she immediately reached out her hands and grabbed onto something. Only then did she manage to stop herself from falling. She looked around. The hell? Why did she return to the roof beam again? Wait a minute. 5 minutes race? It couldn't be that time had returned to 5 minutes ago, right? She immediately climbed down from the pillar and summoned the water mirror. As expected, it was still that beautiful face from before. She grabbed downwards. Great. Her breasts were there as well. So she didn't need to change avatars. Why didn't she say so earlier? You scared me to death. Zhu Yao instantly heaved a sigh of relief. She once again arrived at the door. Recalling her experience of being blasted to death earlier, she did not immediately open the door this time. Instead, she circulated her spiritual energy to sense the location of the explosion talisman. She immediately poked a hole on the paper door and peeled it off. Only then did she open the door. Dense spiritual energy instantly rushed towards her. Zhu Yao took a deep breath. What entered her eyes were misty white clouds, and occasionally, spiritual cranes would fly past. With a single glance, she could tell that this was a blessed land of deities. Beyond the clouds in front of her, there seemed to be a human figure. It was a good chance for her to ask about the current situation of her avatar. Her heart was filled with joy as she raised her leg and stepped out. May I ask? Plop, Zhu Yao stepped on empty air and fell down with a whoosh. Her vision once again darkened. Ding. Congratulations, you have fallen to your death. Ding. The effect of the 5 minutes race mode activated. Countdown begins. 5, 4, 3, 2. Her eyes flashed, and she once again returned to the roof beam. Zhu Yao. That the hell, the design of a cliff right outside the room. Just which idiot architect came up with this idea? If you have the guts, don't leave after school. The third resurrection. She first removed the talisman, and then, she stood inside the door and silently stared at the door for 5 minutes. Just as she was about to find if there were any mystic tools she could use, a disciple dressed in green suddenly flew over from afar. He looked at her with a shocked expression, and his expression seemed to have changed a few times. Immediately after, he bowed towards her. This disciple greets Sect Master. Sect Master, you came out of closed-door training? Zhu Yao was startled for a moment. Sect Master? She was just a foundation? She had reached the peak of her life a little too quickly, wasn't she? Though she had long guessed that this avatar might have its own storyline, she never expected that her identity would be this high. What sect am I the sect master of? Zhu Yao asked. That disciple was stunned for a moment, before he straightened his body and replied. Naturally, you're the sect master of Spirit Heaven Palace. Oh, with the power of the storyline, there was probably no point in denying it. She might as well admit it. Oh right, what's your name? The disciple frowned, something flashed across his face, and then he said with a smile. Sect master sure is forgetful. I'm your junior martial nephew. Luosher. Junior martial nephew? In other words, she had a senior martial brother? Sect master has come out of closed-door training in advance. I wonder if you have any instructions for me? This disciple called Luosher asked. His attitude was rather respectful, but for some unknown reason, she felt that something was strange. No need. She had stayed in this house long enough. It was time for her to start looking for bugs. Do you have a flying mystic tool on you? Can you lend me one? Yes. Sect master. Luosher turned around and pulled open the storage pouch next to him, as he said. I wonder where Sect master is heading to? I don't know. I'll just take a stroll. Zhu Yao turned to look at the snow-white scenery outside the door. Her house had risen so high up, She wondered what it looked like down there. Even if that's the case, why don't Junior Marshal nephew send you off? Before Zhu Yao could even react, she heard the sound of something piercing through the air. Luosher stood in front of her with a dark expression. A dagger was stabbed straight into her chest. The hell? What was going on? Why did he attack without even a word? Ting. Victory and defeat are common occurrences in war. Great deity, please restart. 5 minutes race mode activated. She once again returned to the roof. Just what kind of lousy storyline did Realm Spirit arrange for her? Why did she die 3 times in a row before she even walked out of this room? Could this be the price of having good looks? Can I return it? Zhu Yao felt an unprecedented sense of danger. This time, she did not dare to casually head out. The outside world was too dangerous. She made a full circle around her. She wanted to see if there were any usable mystic tools. In the end, the room was so clean that there wasn't even a speck of dust. Asking for help from others was out of the question. Who knew if she would meet another Luosher who wanted to stab her? What should she do? Suddenly, her gaze focused on the silk blanket on the jade bed. Picking it up, she saw that it was actually silk, a second-ranked artifact refinement material. She immediately pulled out the silk blanket, cast a fire-subduing art, and slowly refined the silk. A moment later, a silk handkerchief the size of a palm was refined. Probably because of the fire, the final product was only a first-ranked mystic tool. However, she was already very satisfied to be able to fly. She swiftly removed the talisman to open the door, and flew out on her artifact. She did not want to stay in this dangerous place for even a moment longer. Just as she flew out a dozen meters, she suddenly crashed into something. A formation. Before she could even react, the formation instantly shone brightly, and hundreds of icicles instantly pierced through the air. Ting. Congratulations, you've died of stupidity. The hell? This old lady doesn't believe that I won't be able to get out of this house. Zhu Yao once again refined the silk. This time, when she left the house, she did not rush out in a hurry. Instead, she took a deep breath and circulated her spiritual energy to investigate the formation. After taking a closer look, she realized that in the air a dozen meters away from the house, there was a circular defensive formation. It surrounded the entire house she was in. The formation was of the ice attribute, and only allowed people to leave, but not enter. In other words, this formation was used to defend against the people in the house. Just who was this avatar of hers? Why were there so many mechanisms and traps outside? After looking through the entire formation, Zhu Yao then began to calculate the formation. A moment later, she found the formation core, which was coincidentally on the roof. Zhu Yao flew closer to take a look, and realized that it was actually a mirror. After pondering for a moment, she decided not to destroy the formation core, and immediately used her hand to cover a corner of the mirror, temporarily blocking the formation. As expected, the surrounding formation shook for a moment, and then disappeared. She took this opportunity to release her grip, and flew out with all her might. Coincidentally, the moment she flew out, the formation once again recovered. After coming out, she flew downwards, and a moment later, she flew out of the layer of clouds. Below her was a forest, and not far away from her were floating mountains that emitted an imposing aura. She could even faintly see a towering palace on top of them. This must be the Spirit Heaven Palace that Luosher mentioned. Zhu Yao, who completely did not understand the scenario, decided to stay far away from this place. She immediately dove into the forest. Just as she was about to head in the opposite direction, suddenly, a loud furious roar sounded from the forest. A huge demonic beast fiercely leaped out. So it was a beastie. Zhu Yao heaved a sigh of relief. She finally saw one of her own. She stepped forward and wanted to give it a hug of love, only to see that beast leaping towards her. Hi, beast. The demonic beast opened its huge mouth. Ting. Congratulations. You've been bitten to death. Zhu Yao, who returned to the roof. That what happened to the promise of being each other's angels? Chapter 311. Realm Spirit said that this world was on the verge of collapse, So he forced her to go offline to fix the bug. She didn't know if the world would collapse, but she was about to. As a person with rich experience of rebirth, she realized that her previous experiences were nothing. It turned out that there were so many ways to die in this world. Exploding to death, falling to death, being killed, being beaten to death by an array formation, being bitten to death by a monster beast, falling into a pit while walking, being blasted to death by a restriction, being choked to death by drinking water, and even walking on the road, being smashed to death by a falling tree. Zhu Yao, who had returned to 5 minutes ago countless times, was deeply suspecting if this character of hers was born with bad luck. And it was the type where the numbers were off the charts. If this went on, she could write a book when she went back, and the title of the book would be My 101 Ways to Die. Zhu Yao heavily gasped for a few breaths, and observed the surrounding terrain. Fortunately, it was safe. Only then did he sit down on the grass. Let me save a file first. He silently counted 5 minutes in his heart. Save complete. Next time I die, at least I won't have to return to that roof beam. Raising her head, she looked at the place she came from. For some reason, this spirit heaven palace kept giving her a dangerous feeling, and she faintly felt that she shouldn't continue staying there. This feeling was very strange and she did not know why. In particular, the various mechanisms and formations outside the room made her even more apprehensive. She didn't know who wanted to deal with the people in the house, but judging from the situation outside, if she continued to stay, she would definitely be involved, so it was better to leave quickly. Zhu Yao stood up. Just as she was about to continue forward and leave this forest, she suddenly heard a series of sobbing sounds. Who was crying in broad daylight? She cautiously looked around. However, there was not a single person in sight, and he could not sense the presence of any living beings in the surroundings. But the crying was getting louder and louder. Who is it? She couldn't help but ask, but there was no response. Could it be a ghost? She was instantly reminded of all kinds of movies with red clothes, decapitated heads, and long tongues. Immediately after, the image of the real netherworld flashed in his mind, and his fear immediately disappeared. Air, with the intelligence of a ghost. There was probably nothing to be afraid of. Just as he was feeling puzzled, he suddenly felt a chill on his arm, and a few drops of water appeared on his arm. She reflexively wiped her face, one hand wet. Holy shit! She was the one crying? When did you start crying? Why didn't he feel anything? Zhu Yao forcefully wiped them a few times, only to realize that her tears were falling even more. There was a faint sign that things were getting out of hand. What was going on? Could it be? His heart tightened, and upon closer inspection, he realized something. The cries actually came from her body. Immediately, he felt a chill rising from the bottom of his heart, making him feel cold. She immediately meditated on the spot, and looked at her dantian. In the farthest corner of his dantian, a drifter in white was squatting on the ground, her hands hugging her knees and her head buried in her legs. His shoulders trembled, and the sound of crying came out continuously. Who are you? Zhu Yao was shocked. Why is it in my body? The female ghost was stunned for a moment. She slowly raised her head and unexpectedly revealed a beautiful face. Huh? Why does he look so familiar? Holy shit. Wasn't this what her new avatar looked like? No, it's not that I'm in your body. The woman sobbed. It's you in my body. Zhu Yao instantly felt as though she was struck by lightning. Why, you're saying that my current body is yours? Amen. The woman nodded heavily. The hell? She was wondering why Realm Spirit treated her so well this time, and gave her a high-quality avatar. So this avatar had an owner. Then what was she? Was she going to take over his body? Or was he planning to make her run around naked? I'm sorry, I will immediately return the avatar to you. Realm Spirit, come out right now. No. The woman suddenly grew anxious. She stepped forward and hugged onto his leg. I don't want to go back. I beg you, don't go. There's actually a weirdo in this world who begs others to take over her body. Girl, aren't you a little too clear-headed? I don't want to be a pillar anymore. Realm Spirit said before, you can help me. I beg you, help me. Realm Spirit? Zhu Yao was startled. Could this girl be a storyline that came with her? She pulled away the hand she was hugging onto her leg and sat down in a lotus position. Tell me just what's going on. What did that bastard realm spirit say to you? Only then did the girl rub her eyes and stop crying. She took out a crystal-like transparent ball from her side and handed it over. Realm spirit gave me this. He said that you will understand once you look at it. What's this? Zhu Yao received it. That ball flashed with light, and in an instant, a screen of light appeared in front of her. Yo, it's actually a projector. This interface. Could it be a storyline? Zhu Yao straightened her body and immediately began to look at it seriously. 3 minutes later, the corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. She glanced at the girl next to her. I say, girl, did you take the wrong disc? I didn't. The girl said with a serious look. Realm spirit only gave me this. Are you certain? I'm certain. Zhu Yao's expression darkened. Like hell I'm certain. In this scene there was a woman and a man, or a woman and 2 men, or even a woman and a bunch of men. Wasn't this clearly an action movie from Japan? Which part of it resembled a storyline? Girl. Zhu Yao took a deep breath. Do you have a boyfriend? It's fine if you don't, I do. She said with a heavy tone. 4 single dogs like you to have 1 or 2 special collections. I can completely understand it. But if you want to observe and learn, you should find a man to accompany you. What's the meaning of pulling me to watch it together? Even if they were good friends, they shouldn't be playing together. Comrade. The girl had a dumbfounded look, as though she was completely unaware of the situation. She glanced at her with good intentions. Realm spirit clearly said that you would understand once you watch it. You're holding it upside down. The girl immediately reached out her hand and turned the ball in Zhu Yao's hand. With an innocent smile she said. That's more like it. Zhu Yao was startled. So this disc was separated into side A and side B? After taking a closer look, as expected, the scene was much purer than before. Just like the storyline in the past, a little girl appeared on it. Most probably, the bug this time was this little girl. She seriously looked at it for a moment, before she finished watching the entire storyline. In an instant, she felt disgusted, as though she had secretly watched a high-class movie, and was even drenched in dog blood. The first half of the storyline was rather normal. The female protagonist of the bug this time was called Fan Jishan, born in a deity family. It was a family after all. Usually they were good at giving birth. And Fan Jishan was a concubine daughter of the Fan family. She was born an idiot, so she was not valued by the family. All the way until she was 6 years old, when her spirit veins were tested to be quadruple spirit veins. Even more so, no one cared about her. Basically, she was the free-range type. Adding on the fact that she was mentally deficient, she was naturally bullied by other children. However, when she was 10 years old, everything completely changed. Her idiocy. She suddenly recovered. She became smarter and quick-witted as well. She could even compose poems in 7 steps. Her words were eloquent, and sometimes, even adults would be shocked by the logic she spoke of. Talents like this were immediately fancied by a steward of the main house, and he made the decision to bring her into the main house's academy. She began to cultivate the basics. The female protagonist was still working hard as well. With the aptitude of quadruple spirit veins, she rose to the 5th level of essence in 3 years. Hence, she was lucky enough to be chosen by the main house. Together with her sisters, she headed to the number 1 deity sect, Spring Stream sect. During the entrance test, due to her being able to see through the profound secrets of a deity sect with a single sentence, she was fancied by a demigod sovereign of Spring Stream sect, and was taken in as a disciple. From then on, Fan Jishan completely reached the peak of her life. She took in pets, stole treasures, cleansed her meridians, increased her cultivation, dominated the world, and ascended to the divine realm. Alright, the normal route should be like this. However, Fan Jishan was the female protagonist, and female protagonists had never taken the normal route. Hence, on the day of her 15th birthday, she suddenly changed her style, and with a godly twist, she activated her hardcore mode. As though she had broken some kind of seal, Her charm value skyrocketed, and she attracted a large group of fans. And she did not only play around, she only did things that were practical. Hence, the scene from before appeared on the screen. Fan Jishan became a disciple, and then Papa Fan Jishan had a junior martial brother, and then Papa Fan Jishan met a genius of the cultivation world in the tournament, and then Papa Fan Jishan picked up a 10th rank humanoid beastie, and then Papa Fan Jishan met the head of the heretic practitioners, and then Papa Fan Jishan got to know the hallmaster of Spirit Heaven Palace, and then Papa Fan Jishan's spiritual artifact developed its own consciousness, and then Papa Fan Jishan met Girlie. Can we fast forward this part? Zhu Yao nudged the girl next to her. She had a confused look. What's fast forward? Forget it. Zhu Yao braced herself and continued watching. The scene had already begun to endlessly fast forward, and those male protagonists who had won no many legs with her had actually fallen in love with her in the end. Even if they knew that she was a public bus, they were still willing to find their own seats. If that was the case, she would just treat it as though she was watching a slightly hardcore movie. P.S. I'm watching it with another girl. However, the female protagonist just had to be in a movie like this, and even had a motherfucking product placement. The female protagonist said, "Master, senior martial sister doesn't seem to like me. What should I do? She doesn't even allow me to disturb Master often. I have no other choice. Well, could it be that I have to let Master expel her? No. She's senior martial sister. All of this is my fault. Master, don't blame senior martial sister. I will work hard to be a good junior martial sister." Then senior martial sister suddenly went berserk and died. The female protagonist said, "Little junior martial brother, I saw your cousin. She said that you and she were engaged since young. Well, how can you cheat my feelings? It's best if you return to her side. We will never meet again in this lifetime." Then my cousin was ambushed and died in the mouths of beasts. The female protagonist said, "Senior martial brother Lang Chun, you're a disciple of Zhentian sect. Your sect master strongly opposes us being together. He said that I'm not worthy of you. It's best if we split up." Then, Zhentian sect was annihilated. The female protagonist said, "Hua Hao, you move my heart so much, but the other beasties in Lingyuan Forest look so scary. I don't even dare to look at them." Then all the other beasties in Lingyuan Forest were chased away. The female protagonist said, "Hall Master Chow. Blah blah." In any case, as long as it was a target of the female protagonist's product placement, there would definitely be bloodshed in the surroundings. Countless cannon fodder would suffer. She was basically a weapon of mass destruction. A simple sentence from her could cause rivers of blood to flow. Zhu Yao was dumbfounded as she watched. Wasn't this a little too fantastical? She suddenly recalled the girl Yi Ling who walked the same path as her. Both of them had countless harems. But evidently, this one was much more high-end. At the very least, the men around her did not fall in love at first sight. Rather, as they interacted with each other, they would unknowingly be attracted to each other. Though, she still felt that this was a little ridiculous. Just like that, Fan Jishan raised her cultivation, took in harems and even product placement. Then the world collapsed. In the final scene, the female protagonist finally stood at the pinnacle of the cultivation world. Suddenly, the earth trembled, and the mountains shook. The entire world began to collapse, and finally, it turned into nothingness. What was going on? Zhu Yao was dumbfounded. She did not understand at all. Fan Jishan was a bug, and she had been cannon fodder before. However, she did not instigate any world wars, so it shouldn't be to the extent of causing the world to collapse so severely. Why did it suddenly turn out like this? What's going on? Zhu Yao pointed at the scene and asked the original owner girl, "Why did the world collapse?" The girl pouted and suddenly began to cry again. With a sad look, she said, "I'm dead." Ah, what did she mean? In here. I'm already dead. The girl once again said, "I know." Zhu Yao had a confused look. In the scenario, the girl was one of the cannon fodder as well. It was because Fan Jishan had planted a slogan in Spirit Heaven Palace's Hall Master Chow in the action movie. Little sister Ling Tian became the sect master at such a young age. She's really too amazing. I can't even compare to her in the slightest. She definitely won't like me. Hence, the Hall Master Chow immediately overthrew the girl and made the female protagonist the sect master. With this, he proved that the female protagonist was the white moonlight in his heart. The other women could not even compare to her toes. Only the heavens knew that the sect master of Spirit Heaven Palace had never even seen her face before. That's right, Ling Tian was the girl's name. She was also the cannon fodder who was sacrificed at the very end in the scenario. But what does this have to do with the collapse of the world? The girl wiped her tears and said with a choked voice, "Because I'm the pillar of this world, the final pillar." What? Zhu Yao was stunned for a moment. She sized her up for a moment. Don't introduce new terms so easily, alright? You don't look like a pillar either. It doesn't mean a pillar. The girl was a little anxious. I'm an existence that supports this world from collapsing. An existence that maintains balance. If I'm missing, then this world will be unbalanced. So she wasn't a pillar but a balanced scale? In other words, you're not human? She shook her head. I'm human. Zhu Yao was even more confused. Then what was up with the pillar? Realm Spirit told me that because a part of this world was missing, it was once destroyed. The girl said seriously. Then this missing part was mended, and it was reborn. However, the mended part did not belong to this world after all. Yet it was indispensable. Hence, after this part gained sentience, it entered the cycle of reincarnation. It wanted to use this method to reincarnate again and again, and slowly merge into this world. This life just so happened to reincarnate into my body, and it was also the final fusion. After this, the world would be complete. But the fusion this time was interrupted? Zhu Yao continued. Your death caused a gap to appear in this world, which led to the final collapse. Amen. The girl nodded. Her expression was a little sorrowful. Suddenly, she seemed to have recalled something. Not only that. Chapter 312. Zhu Yao finally knew what the worst situation was. It wasn't because she was easily infected, nor was it because she had switched to someone else's avatar, nor was it because she had become cannon fodder. It was because the plot was already halfway through, and the cannon fodder was about to be loaded. She read through the plot, and then carefully checked the timeline, only to find out. Damn it. The plot had long begun. The female lead Fan Jishan's harem had been officially established a long time ago, and the hall master surnamed Yin of Spirit Heaven Palace was preparing to get rid of the cannon fodder, Ling Tian. Back then, those array traps outside her house were all set up by him. Finally, he knew why she woke up on the beam. It turned out that she hid there because she was afraid. Then what was the point of giving this plot to her? There was no chance at all, okay? When she thought about how Ling Tian Girly was currently just a foundation establishment cultivator with a battle level of trash, she instantly felt her heart, liver, spleen, lungs, and kidneys throbbing in pain. Since Realm Spirit could make her go back 5 minutes, why couldn't he make her go back 50 years in one go? Wait a minute. If she was discovered by someone when she came out of seclusion, wouldn't that mean? Holy shit. Zhu Yao immediately woke up from her inner vision and released her divine sense to investigate with all her might. As expected, there was a practitioner's aura not too far away from her. She was unable to determine the other party's cultivation level, but most likely it was above hers. Looking at the direction, it was obvious that they were coming for her. It was too late to run now. What should he do? Do I have to die again? Fuck, what happened to the promised comprehensive technical support? Ling Tian Girly, other than the projector, did Realm Spirit give you anything else? Zhu Yao calmed down and sent a voice transmission to the original girly in her body. Realm Spirit said that this is enough for you, the girl replied. She even kindly took the ball out of her body and into her hand. What's the use of that? Wait a minute. It wasn't that simple. Realm Spirit said that he would provide comprehensive technical support. She didn't believe that it was just a 5-minute race and a projector. Judging from his ridiculous inventions, he must have some tricks up his sleeves. Zhu Yao carefully inspected the ball in her hand. Could it be that this projector possessed many other functions? For example, becoming some kind of weapon of mass destruction. With a thought, the ball actually began to glow. This time, it was different from the previous projection. Instead, it emitted a green light, like a fluorescent ball. Then the shape began to change. It was actually telepathy. Zhu Yao was instantly excited. The hands that were holding the ball began to be careful. They silently thought to themselves that the weapon that appeared had better be convenient and durable. A powerful and invincible divine weapon would be even better. Oh right, it had to be a super cosmic killing weapon suitable for both young and old. Only such a weapon would allow her to escape unscathed. The light grew brighter and brighter. The ball also began to lengthen and widen, constantly changing. Finally, with a bang, as if it had finally settled into shape, it revealed a square, snow-white face. There was even a proper word written on it, salt. Zhu Yao, that why is it salt? Do you think this is an anime? I'm facing pursuers, not bandits. What's the use of giving me a bag of salt? Something was not right. Salt doesn't even have a fart effect on, okay? Realm spirit your sister. Why didn't you give her a pen? Should she directly write them to death? The bag of salt that was thrown to the ground flashed with a green light. It turned into a pen. That let me think about where I should start to ridicule to make it seem more cool. Realm spirit definitely didn't really want to save this world, absolutely. Saintess, there are words on that pen. Ling Tian Girly's voice suddenly sounded. Zhu Yao picked up the pen to take a look, only to see 2 words written on the shaft of the brown brush that was filled with black spots and looked very cheap. The tip of the brush even had a split in it. Was written in what seemed to be a unified song script. Godly pen. Ho ho, I'm Ma Liang. Saintess, they're here. The girlie once again let out a soft cry. Zhu Yao gritted her teeth. Forget it, let's go all out. With the dew on the leaves at the side, she wrote 3 words on her body. Passerby A. In the next moment, 4 to 5 Azoth Corps disciples suddenly appeared in the sky above her. Dressed in a blue and white school uniform, they looked at her with arrogant expressions. Who's below? Hi. Zhu Yao fearfully raised her hand. Hello, I'm Ma Liang. Why did you trespass into my spirit heaven palace's misty forest? The disciple asked again. I'm lost. Do you believe me? Lost. The disciple frowned. You actually got lost in a place like this? As expected, wandering practitioners are stupid. The hell, he really believed it. Hey. Is your surname stupid? That disciple seemed to be extremely impatient. Just as he was about to berate him, he was pulled back by another person at the side. Senior Martial Brother. Why must you waste your breath on a wandering practitioner? Looking at how he's acting, he probably wishes to enter our spirit heaven palace as well. There's no need to pay too much attention to him. Finding that demoness is the most important matter. Only then did that disciple's expression soften a little. He glanced at Zhu Yao below and said, Hey, the one with the surname Ma. Yes. Why is the one with the surname stupid looking for me? Did you see a Foundation female practitioner passing by? Dressed in white and green robes? He asked. Zhu Yao tugged on her white and green robes a little uncomfortably, and shook her head crazily. No. Definitely not. The disciple frowned and muttered. That's strange. She shouldn't have run far, right? Why can't I find her? He once again looked at Zhu Yao with disdain, and coldly said, Spirit Heaven Palace doesn't welcome outsiders. Head east, and you'll be able to leave. Hurry and leave, otherwise I won't be so polite the next time we meet. After saying that, he called out to the other martial brothers and grandly left. Thank you. Zhu Yao waved her hands at the crowd. Take care. Only when she could no longer see their figures did she pull out the first-grade mystic artifact she had just refined. Her limbs grew weak as she climbed onto it, and madly flew towards the east. In less than an instant, she had already exited the forest. Phew. That was close. Zhu Yao pulled out that cheap, lousy brush she had on her. She never expected that this really was a divine artifact. She wrote passerby on her body, and that group of people really treated her as a passerby, as though their brains had automatically blocked out the possibility of her being Ling Tian. Realm Spirit was finally reliable for once. It wasn't easy at all. Saintess, we've escaped. That's great, you're really amazing. Ling Tian excitedly spoke up as well. With this item, we won't have to worry about being discovered. Not necessarily. Zhu Yao glanced at the 3 words on her body that were about to dry up. She immediately stuck some water on it and filled it up once again. If her guess was correct, the effect of this brush should be similar to the spirit of words that Chu Chu mentioned earlier. However, the spirit of words written by this brush seemed to have a wider range of effect. Those people earlier were merely Azoth cores. I can't guarantee that those with higher cultivation wouldn't be able to see through it. Ling Tian was silent for a moment. She slowly said, "At the very least, the Saintess and I are currently safe." "Why did you call me Saintess?" Zhu Yao had wanted to ask her this question a long time ago, but she never had the chance to do so. "You specially came to save me. Naturally, you're the Saintess," the girlie happily said. "It's better if you call me by my name. I'm called Zhu Yao." Whenever she called her Saintess, she would automatically think of its synonym, Saintess. "All right. Saintess. Then where are we going?" "Saintess? Do you have any other plans?" "Saintess?" Zhu Yao felt that the final objective of this mission was to protect Ling Tian from death. It was to protect Ling Tian from death. As long as the girlie did not die, this world would not collapse, and there wouldn't be so many things happening in the future. However, looking at the current situation, this objective was very hard to achieve. Firstly, that hall master surnamed Chao in Spirit Heaven Palace would definitely not let her go. Otherwise, he wouldn't have sent disciples to capture her with such great fanfare. Evidently, they had already fallen out with her. Speaking of this, Zhu Yao could not help but look down on the girlie's management abilities. She was completely oppressed by her own subordinates, and she did not even have the strength to retaliate. For a sect master to reach such a level, it could be considered tragic. She even wished that she could look for ZMO, the experienced sect master, to tutor her, so that she could learn how to be an awesome leader. Furthermore, looking at the plot, the female lead Fan Jishan had become the new sect master of Spirit Heaven Palace in the end. So how could she possibly let the original girlie off? There were so many men behind her, and every single one of them was an elite of a region, with a large number of forces standing behind them. Just based on her, a foundation that had just logged on, fighting against trash, she was basically a vegetable that was being chopped up. She basically did not have the strength to retaliate at all. So the most important thing right now was to raise her own strength. The harder the fist, the harder the truth. Zhu Yao was filled with confidence. To her, cultivating was just a matter of time. However, when she began to guide spiritual energy into her body, she realized that she was too naive. She could not guide spiritual energy into her body. Earlier, she was clearly able to freely control the spiritual energy in her body and use mystic arts. However, when she tried to guide spiritual energy into her body, the spiritual energy outside did not react at all. What's going on? This was illogical. Saintess, because this is my body. The girlie's voice weakly sounded. Although you can freely control it, my soul is still here. You can't help me increase my cultivation. Zhu Yao's expression darkened. In other words, you have to cultivate on your own. Amen. Then how long have you been cultivating till now? 5 years? 10 years. The hell? She wanted to curse out loud. This speed was too slow. Saintess. Ling Tian suggested a little guiltily. Why don't we seek help from Grand Hall sect? Their sect has always been on good terms with our Ling Tian lineage. Furthermore, Reverend Fau and I are old acquaintances. If I were to tell her about Hall Master Yan's rebellion, she will definitely uphold justice for me. Are you sure? Why did she feel that he wasn't reliable at all? You have to think this through. The surname Yan and the female lead of Spring Stream sect, which is that Fan Jishan, are together. Will Grand Hall sect go against Spring Stream sect because of you? Ling Tian instantly hesitated a little. If even this method doesn't work, then we can only go to the heaven-devouring secret realm. I heard that there's an ancient art there that can instantly raise one's cultivation to the demigod level. However, that place is extremely dangerous. Even the borders are guarded by 10th rank beasts, I'm afraid. Let's talk about seeking help from Grand Hall Sect. In the end, Zhu Yao decided to go to Grand Hall Sect. According to the girlie, Grand Hall Sect and Spirit Heaven Palace were indeed closely related. In the early days, Spirit Heaven Palace was once the strongest deity sect in this world. Due to the reincarnation of the Sky Pillar, every generation of sect masters had extraordinary aptitudes, and they were all called Ling Tian. However, the Sky Pillar itself was a patch to this world. After reincarnating time and time again, this patch's progress was more or less completed. Hence, the aptitudes of the reincarnated sect masters grew worse and worse with each generation. Currently, Ling Tian girlie was the last one. This meant that the previous sect masters had been updated to 99%, and Ling Tian girlie was the remaining 1%. Hence, Spirit Heaven Palace was no longer as glorious as before. Adding that it was different from other sects where strength reigned supreme. The sect masters of every generation of Spirit Heaven Palace were not chosen based on strength, nor were they chosen by the masses. Instead, when the previous sect master's lifespan came to an end, they would predict where the next sect master would appear. The sect masters would go search for him. Hence, Ling Tian girlie was already the sect master the moment she was born. Of course, in the cultivation world, without absolute strength, no matter how high one's status was, it was just an illusion. In the past, the sect masters of Spirit Heaven Palace, due to their exceptional aptitudes and high cultivation, it was understandable for them to be placed on the pedestal by the masses. Hence, the masses accepted this method of succession. Furthermore, it was faintly tinged with the color of legend. However, as the quality of the sect masters plummeted, this method would naturally be suspected by others, especially by those with strength. A split was only a matter of time. And Grand Hall Sect was once a branch of Spirit Heaven Sect. Later on, it slowly grew and became independent. However, it still maintained a subtle relationship with Spirit Heaven Sect. And that Reverend Fau the girlie spoke of was currently the sect master of Grand Hall Sect. Hearing the girlie's words, he was even her childhood sweetheart. Though it had been a few years since they last met, their relationship was still as firm as steel. When the girlie spoke up to hear, even her tone had become much lighter, carrying a hint of pride that even she herself could not detect. Zhu Yao frowned. That unreliable premonition was growing stronger. Based on her experience, all childhood sweethearts would die in their memories. Hence, when they finally infiltrated Grand Hall Sect, and saw that man inside the hall chatting happily with the female lead Fan Jishan, she was truly not the least bit surprised. Then I will have to trouble Sect Master Fau. Little sister Fan, you're being too courteous. This humble one naturally trusts little sister. To tell you the truth, I had actually long seen through this demoness Ling Tian. Her thoughts are deep, and she's sinister and cunning. In the past few years, she's used to putting on an act. This humble one has always been unable to understand how a person like her is worthy to be the sect master of Spirit Heaven Sect. Thank you for your reminder, little sister Fan. I was finally enlightened. Big brother Fau, you're too courteous. I couldn't bear to see the world being deceived as well, so I specially came to inform her. I was born at the same time as her, so it's understandable for the elders who came to select the successor to carry the wrong person. Big sister Ling Tian can't be blamed either. For so many years, I've been wandering outside, and it wasn't easy for me to. I don't blame big sister Ling Tian. Ha! You're too kind to actually plead for her. If she hadn't intentionally concealed it, how could we have only found out now that you're the real sect master of Spirit Heaven Sect? If you hadn't accidentally awakened the spirit guiding beast, wouldn't this impostor have been exposed forever? Don't worry, anyone has the right to punish a woman with such a malicious heart. My Grand Hall Sect will definitely use the strength of the entire sect to assist you in capturing her. Big brother Fau, little sister Fan, the corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. She could faintly hear a voice. Congratulations female lead for obtaining male number NX1. Harem members +1. Current total. The female lead's eyes were blinded. It seemed like the route of asking for help was no longer possible. Just as she was about to retreat, She felt a chill at the side of her face. A water droplet slid down, landing straight on the word, transparent on her chest, instantly dispersing the water stains on it. The hell, Ling Tian girlie, don't cry. Who's there? A berating voice sounded from within the hall. Chapter 313. Before Zhu Yao came here, she had made all her preparations. In fact, in order to be a qualified Maoliang, she had even gone to a nearby cultivation town to test the effects of the divine pen. After confirming that even nascent soul practitioners would not be able to see through it, she then headed to Grand Hall Sect. She never expected that no matter how perfect her plan was, it could not compare to a pig-like teammate. She was caught and tied up tightly like a big rice dumpling. Meanwhile, the female lead Fan Jishan and Grand Hall Sect Master Fa, you were currently looking at her coldly. I didn't expect you to be so stupid as to come to me. Fau snorted coldly. I didn't expect it either. Zhu Yao wanted to cry, but no tears came out. Why don't you let me go now, and catch me again in the future? That way, I might feel more accomplished. Let you go? Fau's face stiffened, and he was instantly enraged. You still haven't paid the price for framing little sister Fan. If I let you go now, do you think I'm stupid? Alright, now she knows that you're not stupid at all. If I let you go now, won't you come looking for me for revenge in the future when your cultivation increases greatly? What he said made so much sense that she had nothing to say in response. Big brother Fau. Fan Jishan said softly, her tone filled with endless sorrow. Don't be angry. Now that little sister Ling Tian has returned on her own, as long as she apologizes to me, I can let bygones be bygones. Little sister Fan. Fau's expression softened, and he said with a pained expression, don't be so kind. You've already suffered for so many years, and it's all because of her. If we let her off just like that, wouldn't that be fueling her arrogance? Now that we've finally caught the culprit, we can't just let this matter go. Fan Jishan looked troubled. I know big brother Fau treats me well, but she's from the same mother. How can I bear to do that? Sigh, how can you think like that? You care about your sisterhood, but has she ever cared about it? No matter what, I must give you an explanation today. Big brother Fau. I believe she didn't do it on purpose. Fan Jishan suddenly burst into tears. Turning around, she walked 2 steps towards Zhu Yao, and said without any regrets. Big sis, this little sister doesn't have any other requests. As long as you apologize, I will forgive you. Zhu Yao was startled, as she looked at the female lead who was crying her heart out. Aunt, who are you? The female lead's face froze for a moment, but she immediately recovered. She turned around and threw herself into the arms of spiritual master Fau. She cried her heart out. Flower Protector N was instantly enraged. Pointing at Zhu Yao's nose, he began to scold. As expected, your thoughts are vicious. Little sister Fan, let bygones be bygones. You don't know what's good for you. Please, all she did was ask who she was. How could he be so vicious and unable to tell good from bad? If you guys want to accuse me of a crime, at least let me know what's going on, right? Please don't act so willfully, okay? I've never seen your little sister Fan before, alright? Both of them were stunned for a moment, and only reacted after a while. Fau became even angrier. Even now, you still dare to quibble. Fau glared at her. Back then, you and little sister Fan were twins. Little sister Fan was supposed to be the chosen sect master of Spirit Heaven Palace in the first place. Yet you impersonated her and entered Spirit Heaven Palace. Not only is it not enough for you to occupy the nest of a magpie, you even suppressed her multiple times. Her childhood was miserable, and she was treated like an idiot until she was 6 years old. With such a vicious heart, you're basically unworthy of being a sect master. Zhu Yao was stunned for a moment. She turned to carefully size up the female lead this time, Fan Jishan. Big brother Fau, don't say any more. Fan Jishan, however, turned her head around, and the tears on her face flowed even more. She looked as though she could no longer bear to talk about it, and was going to swallow all the grievances in her heart. Zhu Yao could not help but praise her. This acting was brilliant. This could be considered as the highest level bug she had encountered. In order to become the sect master of Spirit Heaven Palace, she had truly paid a huge price. To think that she could even come up with such a ridiculous story. She even did not hesitate to lower her own status, and turned into Spirit Heaven Girlie's twin sister, putting on a show of carrying the wrong baby, in order to rightfully take the position of sect master of Spirit Heaven Palace. It was truly a pity that this lady wasn't a scriptwriter. However, sect master FAU. Zhu Yao sighed. You're saying, back then, I intentionally impersonated her, became the sect master of Spirit Heaven Palace, and even persecuted her? FAU frowned. He did not answer, and simply snorted in disdain. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. Then may I ask, do you know how old I was when I arrived at Spirit Heaven Palace? FAU said impatiently. The succession of sect master of Spirit Heaven Palace has always been swift, so naturally, it starts from your birthday. In other words, I was in Spirit Heaven Palace the moment I was born? Zhu Yao said with a sunken voice. You're saying, when I was still a milk baby, I intentionally swapped her? You sure think highly of my intelligence. FAU's expression stiffened, as though he had thought of this as well. Then why did she suffer in the past? How would I know? Zhu Yao rolled her eyes at him. She was persecuted before she was 6, and could not retaliate. Could it be that I already knew how to send people to harm her when I was 6? Let's just say my intelligence is off the charts, and I'm smarter than the two of you. If I had planned to impersonate her from the very beginning, and was born on the same day as her, then did I motherfucking plan this from the moment I was a fetus? Where's your logic? Were they all slapped away? When the two of them heard her question, they were both stunned. Especially when Fan Jishan's expression instantly paled, and a hint of panic flashed past her eyes. She immediately reverted back to that weak little white girl, and cried even more miserably. She looked extremely wronged, yet she still tried her best to speak up. Big sis, it's fine. It's fine even if you don't admit it. It's my fault. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have gone to Spirit Heaven Palace, and I shouldn't have awakened the spirit guiding beast either. The suspicion on FAU's face was instantly swept clean. Holding on to Fan Jishan, he said even more angrily. Ling Tian, there's no need to quibble. Little sister Fan treated you so well. Yet you actually want to accuse her. Putting aside what happened in the past, just based on little sister Fan being able to awaken the guardian sacred beast of Spirit Heaven Palace, the spirit guiding beast, it's more than enough to prove that she's the rightful sect master of Spirit Heaven Palace. The hell? Zhu Yao couldn't be bothered with these two. Their logic was dead. Looking at them, they definitely wouldn't let her off today. Zhu Yao began to calculate. She wondered if that 5 minutes race was still effective. Big brother FAU. Fan Jishan glanced at Zhu Yao at the side, and said with reddened eyes. Forget it. No matter how big sis treats me, I won't blame her. I won't blame her at all. The sins she committed shall be dealt with by Spirit Heaven Palace's law hall. I'll bring her back right now. As she said that, she walked towards Zhu Yao, who was tied up like a fried dough twist. FAU, however, suddenly stopped her footsteps and sighed. Little sister Fan, I know that you've always been soft-hearted, and still want to protect her even at a time like this. However, you might not be repaid for treating her well. Since you can't bear to do it, then let me be the villain. Let me deal with her. No. Fan Jishan blurted out. A hint of panic flashed past the depths of her eyes, but she immediately recovered. She still said in a weak and gentle voice. She's a member of my Spirit Heaven Palace, so according to the rules, she naturally has to be dealt with by Spirit Heaven Palace. I already owe Big Brother FAU a lot, so how can I trouble you even more? Little sister Fan. FAU, however, suddenly grew angry. He looked at her with an exasperated look. You're soft-hearted again, and you want to secretly let her off, aren't you? Fan Jishan was stunned. FAU, however, deeply frowned. Little sister Fan, you can't be too kind. Be decisive. I'm not. Don't say any more. I will definitely not allow you to bring this person back. Release her. Then it's decided. If you can't bear to deal with her, Then let me do it. I will definitely seek justice for you. Without waiting for Fan Jishan to react, Fau had already summoned 2 disciples with righteous indignation. Pointing at the dumpling Yao on the ground, he said, "Throw this person into the lowest level of the dungeon. Keep a tight watch on him, understand?" "Yes." The 2 disciples nodded in unison. Before Fan Jishan could even react, carrying Zhu Yao, they walked out while huffing and puffing. Zhu Yao silently turned around and glanced at Fan Jishan, who had a deathly pale face and was unable to speak. "Who asked you to act like a pretentious prick?" He had really treated her as a weak little white flower who did not even dare to make a move against her enemies. Zhu Yao was thrown into Grand Hall Sect's dungeon. She spent exactly 2 hours before she was able to undo the mystic art that sealed her movements. She did not know if it was because she was too confident in the formation of the dungeon, but there was only a single restriction in this dungeon. She tried to gather the spiritual energy in her body and held onto the cell door in an attempt to break this formation, only to realize that she was basically unable to use it. It seemed like there was something in this formation that was suppressing spiritual energy, and she could not break it directly. Recalling Fan Jishan's attitude earlier, she reckoned that she would not allow her to fend for herself here. And for some reason, she felt that her goal was not merely to snatch the position of sect master from Ling Tiangirli. She should have some other plans. Otherwise, why would she be in such a rush to capture her when she had already obtained Spirit Heaven Palace? She even wanted to bring her back? No matter what, she had to escape first. Zhu Yao took out the pen she had been hiding in her bosom and planned to once again play the role of Ma Liang. Her tears began to fall uncontrollably once again. "Stop crying." Zhu Yao simply felt a deep sense of helplessness. Wasn't it just a breakup? And the girlie was crying uncontrollably. Her eyes were even swollen, you know? "Little you wasn't like this in the past." Ling Tian sobbed as she said. "He was so obedient in the past, so cute. No matter what, he would always listen to me." Obedient? Cute? Recalling how Fau looked like a brainless fan of the female lead earlier, the corner of her lips twitched. She could only say, "Ling Tiangirli, you were blind in the past. He even said that he definitely wouldn't let anyone bully me, but now, he's just relying on someone else's side of the story, and not even listening to my explanation. Why? There's no why for something like this," Zhu Yao said with a sunken voice. "I just don't like him anymore." Ling Tiangirli turned silent, however. The tears on her face continued to flow even more fiercely. Zhu Yao had no choice but to let her cry, and while she was at it, she planned on activating her Ma Liang mode. Suddenly, the restrictions at the entrance shook, and the sound of approaching footsteps could be heard. The hell? Someone came so quickly. Zhu Yao immediately hid the pen. A moment later, a person walked in from the entrance. Of all things, it was Fau. With a dark expression, he walked straight to the pillar of light in front of the prison and stood still. He stared at her with a sinister expression. He did not move, and simply stood there like that. His expression, however, grew even more ruthless and cold, and even his eyes were beginning to surface with a bloodthirsty red. Zhu Yao's heart skipped a beat, and she could not help but feel a chill. There was something wrong with this grandson's expression. Compared to that brainless fan she saw in the hall earlier, it was as though he was a completely different person. He couldn't really be thinking of killing her right now to vent Fan Jishan's anger, right? Her heart was in a state of panic, as she thought of a way to escape this place. However, with a wave of his hand, he suddenly opened the prison door. Before she could even react, a black figure flashed in front of her, and in the next moment, a hand was already grabbing onto her neck. Zhu Yao retreated out of reflex, yet he simply dragged her all the way to the wall. His eyes flashed with a furious and crazed glint, as though he could not wait to tear her into pieces. The hell, this crazy brainless fan. He's actually here to kill me. In an instant, her breathing stopped. Just when she thought that she was about to activate her passive resurrection skill, his hand suddenly loosened a little, allowing her to catch her breath. The other party's eyes, however, grew even colder and more ruthless. Even his voice was filled with coldness. "Speak. Just who in the world are you?" Before Zhu Yao could even catch her breath, She was shocked by his words, and was stunned on the spot. You're not Ling Tian, just who in the world are you? The redness in his eyes grew even deeper, as though he had sunk into some sort of madness. Where's Tian Tian? What did you do to her? Why are you possessing her body? The hell? Just how in the world did he see through her? Could it be that he knew right from the start that she wasn't Ling Tian girly? Where's Ling Tian? With emphasis on every single word, strands of black miasma faintly surfaced around his body. You better speak the truth, otherwise, I will scatter your soul. As he said that, the hand he was grabbing onto her tightened even further. Zhu Yao forcefully slapped away the hand he was grabbing onto her. The hell, are you going to let me speak or not? I'm about to breathe my last, alright? FAU's expression sank to the point where ink was about to drip out. Taking a deep breath, as though he was trying his best to suppress the madness in the depths of his heart, he flung her onto the ground. She heavily coughed a few times before she was able to catch her breath. Looking at FAU, who seemed to have suddenly turned into a completely different person, she began to ponder over a plan. From the looks of it, he seemed to be extremely concerned about Ling Tian's whereabouts. Then what was up with that brainless fan in the hall earlier? Saint. Ling Tian suddenly spoke up. Can you let me speak with him? Are you sure? Ling Tian was a gentle girl, so no matter how she looked at it, she would be worried for FAU, who had activated his tyrannical mode. Ling Tian girl's voice sank. I have something I wish to ask him personally. Zhu Yao agreed in the end. Her mind relaxed, and she instantly felt as though her entire body had been pulled away. In a blink of an eye, she had arrived in a snow-white space, the place where the girl was earlier. With a thought, a large screen appeared in front of her, and it was the situation outside. Seemingly in an instant, Ling Tian, who had fallen onto the ground, gave off a completely different aura. It had to be said that compared to Zhu Yao, Ling Tian girl's main body appeared more elegant and dignified. She was truly a beauty that could cause the downfall of nations, while Zhu Yao was, at the very most, a clown that could cause the downfall of nations. Little you, the girl lightly called out. The moment her words fell, Reverend FAU, whose eyes were bloodshot and body was filled with killing intent, as though he had activated his tyrannical mode, looked as though someone had poured a bucket of water over his head. She could faintly hear the sound of something being extinguished in the air. Chapter 314. In the blink of an eye, FAU's anger, ruthlessness, viciousness, and other emotions were all withdrawn. Even his scarlet eyes started to become clear and bright. He anxiously ran over and helped Ling Tian girly up from the ground, his eyes filled with anxiety. Tian Tian, is that you? Are you still here? He carefully supported Ling Tian girly, as if he was too nervous. Even his hands were trembling. You weren't taken over by that person. Little you. Ling Tian raised his head and looked at him in confusion. He grabbed Ling Tian's hand and said, I didn't harm that lady with the surname Fan, she isn't. I know. Unexpectedly, FAU actually didn't refute her, and instead nodded his head forcefully. His brows were tightly knitted as if he'd thought of something, and his face started to warp and become gloomy again. With that face of hers, is she even worthy of being mentioned in the same breath as you? She's so ugly that I want to vomit, and she even said that she shared the same mother with you. Does she really think that everyone in the world is blind? A woman who doesn't know how to behave herself actually dares to covet the position of Spirit Heaven Palace's sect master. What happened to the female lead's diehard fan? The boot mode was not right. Tian Tian, don't worry. Everything will be fine. I'll help you take back the position of sect leader. FAU turned around and immediately transformed back into the young man with clear eyes. Then just now you. Ling Tian girly was stunned for a moment. Although Fan Jishan herself isn't a threat, the forces behind her are complicated, and it's not a good idea to confront her head-on. What I did before was just to gain her trust. You don't be angry, FAU explained. Recalling everything that had happened in the hall, a disgusted expression appeared on his face, as though he had just swallowed a fly. The plot was developing too quickly, like a tornado. Could it be that FAU was a double agent? By the way, how are you? Were you hurt? Fau anxiously pulled Ling Tiangirli over and began to inspect her. He pulled here and there, and only after realizing that she was completely fine did he heave a sigh of relief. Immediately afterwards, he realized that his actions were inappropriate and hurriedly took a step back. Tian. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. His ears started to redden, and he looked as if he didn't know what to do. Ling Tiangirli smiled. Only then did the doubts in his heart disappear. She looked at the person in front of her with tears in her eyes and said in a choked voice, Xiaoyu. You're still my Xiaoyu. Fau raised his head and looked straight into her eyes. Their gazes met for 10,000 years. Always. Zhu Yao, who was still squatting in her dantian, expressed, being showered with affection. Master, where are you? At this time, a certain master who had been waiting near the divine gate for a long time thought, why hasn't my disciple come up yet? Ling Tiangirli told Fau everything that happened, and emphasized that Zhu Yao was not here to harm her. It wasn't for the sake of possession or the fact that he was a member of their team. Fau frowned, but in the end, he still accepted the girl's explanation. In the beginning, Zhu Yao was a little suspicious of Fau. This person's attitude changed too quickly. Earlier, he was still Fan Jishan's brainless fan, but in an instant, he had turned into Ling Tiangirli's loyal dog. However, as the two of them conversed, her suspicions were slowly dispelled. The way he looked at the girl was completely different from how he looked at Fan Jishan. Though they were both infatuated, when he looked at Ling Tiangirli, it was even purer, as though everything else in the world had been blocked out, and the girl was the only person in his eyes. Not to mention his careful attitude, afraid that she would bump into something or bump into something. He wanted to approach her, yet he was afraid of causing her disgust, making him look like a little brat who had just fallen in love. Even some of his subconscious movements were filled with concern and unease. If all of these could be faked out, then his acting skills were simply too brilliant. Most likely, he had even fooled himself. It was precisely because she saw all of these that she did not stop Ling Tiangirli from telling him everything. The girl explained to Fau for a while, before returning to her dantian and handing her body over to Zhu Yao. Zhu Yao's vision blurred, and Fau, who was still on the screen earlier, instantly appeared in front of her. He was currently carefully holding on to one of her hands. His handsome face was filled with a bashful smile, and his eyes were focused as though he was looking at the most beautiful scenery in the world. For a moment, goosebumps covered her entire body. This display of affection. She wondered if he would be allergic to it. Hi, student little you. Zhu Yao smiled awkwardly. Hello, I'm Maoliang. All of the tender and sweet expressions on Fau's face were instantly retracted. He once again turned into that cold and expressionless face. Seemingly in an instant he raised his hand and flung her away. Zhu Yao did not sit stably, and instantly fell from the chair onto the ground. Her face was covered in dust. The hell, this difference in treatment was a little too huge, wasn't it? I don't know where you popped out from, you wandering ghost. Fau coldly glared at her. Pulling out a handkerchief, he desperately wiped the hand that was grabbing onto her earlier, as though he had touched something dirty. But I'm warning you, if you dare to harm her, or have delusional thoughts of taking over her body, I will definitely not let you off. Zhu Yao rubbed her aching hand and sat up. This person sure changed his face quickly. Don't worry, I'm not interested in your childhood sweetheart's body. As she said that, she could not help but lower her head to look at that 36y chest. Alright, she was still a little interested. That better be the case. Fau coldly snorted. His eyes were as cold as ice, and the cautiousness and panic he had when facing Ling Tiangirli earlier were nowhere to be seen. His face was now filled with a domineering and cool air. For the next few days, you just have to obediently stay here. After I get rid of that trash surnamed Fan, I will naturally let you out. Trash. Didn't he call her little sister Fan earlier? Fau evidently recalled what happened earlier as well, as he looked as though he had just eaten shit. Wiping his hand even harder with the handkerchief, he continued with a cold voice. That woman's surnamed Fan is very strange. In a mere 50 years, she was actually able to form her nascent soul. She must have some unusual methods. She's definitely not trying to bring Tian back to Spirit Heaven Palace, just for the sake of the sect master position. What he said made sense. She had thought of this point as well. There's a unique mystic energy supporting her body. He frowned and his expression sank even further. From what I can see, that mystic energy is actually able to affect the circulation of spiritual energy in the surroundings. The higher one's cultivation, the easier it is to fall for it. You're saying that the men around her are all being controlled because of this. Zhu Yao was startled. She felt as though she had just activated a hidden scenario. FAU gave her a "you're not that stupid yet, and you're slightly better than trash" expression. This art is similar to the bewitching arts of heretic practitioners. It can confuse a person's mind, but it doesn't carry any evil aura, making it hard for others to detect it easily. Furthermore, it seems to be a mystic art that she was born with. There aren't any traces of spiritual energy at all. Zhu Yao suddenly recalled the Yi Ling of the past. She seemed to be able to make the men who saw her develop feelings of goodwill towards her as well. Even Sesame was unable to resist her when it transformed into its human form. In the beginning, she had thought that she was born with a protagonist's aura. But now that she thought about it carefully, what if the protagonist's aura was something like mystic treasures and spiritual energy, something that could be cultivated? Did Fan Zhishan have this as well? However, in the scenario she saw, the men in her harem did not fall in love with her at first sight. Instead, as they slowly interacted with each other, they developed feelings of goodwill towards her. And then their feelings became so deep that they could die. However, according to FAU's explanation, these people were affected by the unique mystic energy in her body. It was possible that the longer time passed, the deeper the influence would be. After all, as long as it was a practitioner, they would more or less carry the arrogance of mortals. How could they possibly be willing to share a wife with someone else? Furthermore, they could even coexist peacefully with each other. This was simply too abnormal. And amongst these people, there was even a 10th-ranked demonic beast. There was no need to mention how strong a demonic beast's possessiveness towards its partner was. Back then, wasn't the main reason why Yi Ling became a bug because she provoked a demonic beast? Fau coldly laughed. Clenching his fists by his side, he coldly said, "Chao Chi actually dared to go against his superiors and touch my people. It's about time for them to pay the price. Otherwise they would really think that I, Qiongyu, am afraid of them." Why did she feel that he had the same aura as Wang Po of Tianliang? That disgusting woman. I will deal with her sooner or later. Fau domineeringly said. In an instant his voice turned cold as he turned to look at her. In this period of time, you better behave yourself, and don't have any ill intentions. Otherwise, I will not let you off either. What happened to the promise she made to Ling Tian to be friends? Do you understand? Yes, see. No problem, see. Fau coldly snorted and gave her an expression that said, "At least you're tactful." With a wave of his sleeves, he walked away with large strides. His entire body was filled with tyrannical, cool and awesome. Zhu Yao. Saintess. Ling Tian's voice once again sounded. I knew it. Isn't little you really cute? Cute my ass. Flips table. He's clearly scary, alright? Ling Tian girly, if you have such a domineering and loyal childhood companion, why did you still call me over? To watch you two flaunt your love? That night, Zhu Yao finally understood the reason why she came. It was actually to prevent the female lead from attacking at night. While she was meditating, she suddenly felt a strong gust of wind. The prison door formed by the pillar of light suddenly disappeared. She looked at the empty prison door in front of her for a few minutes, and then silently sat on the ground without moving. An hour later, as though she could no longer hold it in, a figure appeared at the door. Oh, it's you. Zhu Yao waved her hands. Fan Zhishan looked at her with a cold expression, without the slightest hint of the weak look she had before. Why aren't you going out? Zhu Yao rolled her eyes. For a prison door to suddenly open like this, it's clearly because someone is trying to lure me out. Do you think I'm an idiot? Why would I send myself to their doorstep, even though I already know? This was clearly saying, hurry and come out, I have a wolf's den here. This sort of brainless plot had already been played out so many times in movies, There definitely wouldn't be any good results if she went out. You sure are smart. Fan Zhishan coldly laughed. It's no wonder you're carrying such a huge amount of luck. Luck? What do you mean? Chapter 315. As she said that, she summoned a few chains of light and flew over. She didn't look like she was going to kill her, but rather, she wanted to snatch something? Zhu Yao did not move. She watched as she flew over, but when she was a foot away from her, she collided with something with a dong sound and was unable to advance any further. What's this? Fan Zhishan pushed the air in front of her, only to realize that it was blocked by something transparent. A formation? No, there wasn't any spiritual energy flow in the surroundings, and even the spiritual energy was extremely thin. It couldn't be a formation. Zhu Yao glanced at the few crooked words on the ground, the unstoppable wall. She silently gave a thumbs up to the godly brush in her arms. External weapons and whatnot, she loved them the most. You're actually able to summon such a mystical barrier. Fan Zhishan was unable to enter, but not only was she not discouraged, her eyes instead burned with even more passion. Great! This is simply great. As though she was injected with chicken blood, she looked at Zhu Yao even more passionately, and her eyes were filled with a determined light. Zhu Yao frowned. She felt that there was something wrong with her current expression. Fan Zhishan began to cast an art, summoning a large amount of flames in an attempt to burn away this obstruction. However, it was futile. She summoned icicles, earth spikes, thorns. She used all 5 types of mystic arts once more. In the end, she was completely unable to break through. Her expression changed from shock to greed, and finally to uncontrollable excitement. Suddenly, she stopped all of her attacks, and her smile grew even deeper. Do you think I won't be able to do anything if you hide inside? She raised her hand and in an instant, a red light shone. Fan Zhishan's body began to emit a red light as well, as though something was currently flowing out from her body. A B, then a U, and then a G. Slowly, they gathered in her palm. In the end, a sickle-shaped gigantic bug was formed on her palm. But why was it a bug? Was the female lead's body written in code? It even knew how to write English letters, hey! With a complacent look, the female lead raised the bug in her hand and forcefully swung it forward. The Ma Liang brand barrier instantly cracked, and a gigantic hole was opened up. Zhu Yao was almost smashed in the face by the bee in the bug. The hell? What happened to the promised unstoppable wall? She hurriedly retreated. Only then was he able to dodge her attack. He vaguely felt that something had been cut off from his side. The sound of something breaking came from his bosom. She didn't have time to think. She slammed her palm into the ground, and a patch of spikes rose from the ground, heading straight for the female lead. Even the entire dungeon let out a loud rumble. Fan Zhishan dodged to the side. She was a nascent soul cultivator, and Zhu Yao was just a foundation trash. It wasn't a match for her at all. With a wave of her hand, the earth spike was reduced to ashes. He had been waiting for this moment. Zhu Yao formed a seal with her hands. He activated the spiritual qi in his body and instantly activated the gold element spell. The crushed soil that had just turned to dust instantly grew long metal-like thorns that shot towards Fan Zhishan from all directions. Because she had just shattered the spikes, her surroundings were filled with dust. In an instant, the spikes had turned into steel spikes. Fan Zhishan had no place to dodge. There was even a cut on his body. However, she was a nascent soul cultivator after all. With just a thought, she summoned a protective barrier and blocked all the attacks from all directions. She sneered, "Humph, with just this bit of ability, you want to challenge me?" And where did she go? When she regained her senses, Zhu Yao had already agilely flown out of the dungeon. The hell? Who wanted to fight with her? They were clearly not on the same level. Naturally, she had to run as fast as she could. Zhu Yao flew extremely quickly and instantly exited the dungeon. However, Fan Zhishan was even faster. Before she could even leave Grand Hall Sect, a figure flashed in front of her, and she had already blocked her way. Her face was filled with a mocking smile, mocking her for overestimating herself. "Little sister Fan?" FAU's voice of disbelief suddenly resounded. Fan Jishan instantly stiffened for a moment, while Zhu Yao heaved a sigh of relief. She finally came. You're? FAU looked at her, and then looked at Fan Jishan. A heartbroken expression instantly surfaced on his face. Little sister Fan. As expected, you still want to save her. You didn't hesitate to barge into the dungeon. Fan Jishan's expression changed a few times, and then immediately returned to that weak and stubborn look. She looked at FAU with a bitter expression. She's after all my big sister. When FAU heard this, his expression became even more heartbroken. He looked as though he had been let down, and even his body was beginning to tremble a little. I just wanted to help you vent your anger. If you don't want her life, just say it. I will definitely agree to it. Why did you have to sneak into the dungeon to rescue her? Could it be that I'm not worthy of your trust? Big brother FAU. Fan Jishan stiffened for a moment. She was really beginning to panic a little. You misunderstood, I'm not. No need to say any more. FAU raised his hand to stop her from speaking. His shoulders drooped down powerlessly, as though he was immersed in some sort of immense pain. If she had not seen how FAU treated Ling Tian, Zhu Yao would have believed that he was a heartbroken person who was misunderstood by his lover. I knew that your heart isn't with me. I just wanted to do something for you silently, and treat you a little better. Can't I do that as well? Fan Jishan was instantly dumbfounded. This time, she was really in a dilemma. Initially, she definitely had her own plans for charging into the dungeon. However, she never expected that the fight would lure FAU out, and he even thought that she was secretly here to save Ling Tian. On the other hand, Fan Jishan was worried that her plan would be exposed, so she had no choice but to accept it. She pretended to care about their sisterly relationship, and came to save Ling Tian. On the other hand, FAU was truly here to save Ling Tian, and purposely pretended to be infatuated with his good intentions being trampled on. Zhu Yao glanced at the two Oscars in front of her. Should she cooperate as well? Big brother FAU, that's not what I meant. In the end, the female lead was still unable to let go of the image she had put on for so many years, and wanted to appease FAU's rage. Forget it. FAU, however, let out a long sigh. It's this FA's fate that's lacking. He looked at the female lead with a pained expression. Return to Spirit Heaven Palace. I won't shamelessly keep you here anymore. Big brother FAU, go. He roared out, looking as though he had finally made up his mind. Don't come again. Fan Jishan stiffened, and her eyes could not help but look at Zhu Yao at the side. Just as she was about to speak, FAU suddenly said. As for Ling Tian, his expression turned cold, and he said word by word. Treat it as the last thing I do for you. I will definitely not let her have the chance to harm you. As he said that, he suddenly waved his hand, and a chain struck onto Zhu Yao's body. The hell? Zhu Yao was unable to dodge in time, and was immediately tied up. She struggled a few times symbolically, and then cursed out a few times, playing along with these two Oscars. There was no helping it. Life was like a play, and it all depended on one's acting skills. Shut up. FAU immediately threw a palm strike at her. With a bang, Zhu Yao was instantly smashed onto the ground from the sky, smashing into the underground prison below. With a loud bang, a huge crater was smashed out. From afar, she could even hear FAU's words that were filled with deep emotions and despair. Little sister Fan, leave. Don't let me suffer anymore. She really wanted to give him the title of Best Actor. What to do? After a while, when she could no longer hear the commotion from above, Zhu Yao finally used all her strength to climb out of the crater. Raising her head, she saw FAU looking into the distance with a sorrowful expression. The light of the setting sun shone on his body, and he gave off an indescribable sense of loneliness and desolation. It was the standard angle of an infatuated male antagonist. His entire body was filled with drama. In the next moment he flew down. The expression on his face had completely disappeared, and he coldly rolled his dead fish eyes at her. Hey, are you dead yet? The hell? So this daddy's treatment was not even comparable to a drama. Zhu Yao shook off the dust on her body and stood up. Patting away the already shattered defensive mystic artifact on her chest, she rolled her eyes at him. He had indeed used a lot of strength in that palm strike earlier. Forget about a foundation, even an Azoth core would not be able to withstand that palm strike of his. However, at the moment he struck her, he placed a defensive mystic artifact on her body, and instantly blocked all the damage. Although it looked like she had no way out of this predicament, in reality, other than eating a mouthful of dust, she was completely unscathed. Zhu Yao seemed to have understood his intentions immediately, and so she immediately cooperated and retracted all of her presence. Even her consciousness sank into her dantian, and hugged Ling Tian girly, successfully faking her death. Your acting skills aren't bad, young man. Zhu Yao habitually patted his shoulder. Unexpectedly, he suddenly dodged to the side, causing Zhu Yao to pat empty air, and she had almost fallen onto the ground. Don't touch me, disgusting. The hell, your disgust is a little too obvious, isn't it? At the very least, we're teammates. Earlier, you were still holding on to little sis Fan's hand without letting go. Why don't I see your disgust? His expression instantly contorted, looking as though he had just eaten shit. Opening his mouth, he began to curse. If not for the fact that Tian Tian is in danger, why would this daddy approach that woman who is as dirty as a toilet bowl? Just based on trash like her, this daddy can smell her disgusting scent even from 150 kilometers away. Even if a person like her is thrown into the toilet, I would feel that she would dirty other people's shit. As long as she's alive, she's a malignant tumor, and even if she's dead, I'm afraid she'll infect other ghosts. Even walking will dirty her earth spiritual energy. Drinking water will dirty her water spiritual energy. Practicing the sword will dirty her metal spiritual energy. Lighting a fire will dirty her fire spiritual energy. If she were to sleep on a wooden bed, even with spiritual energy would feel aggrieved, alright? This daddy feels like I'm only breathing foul air when I'm living in the same world as her. His curses were filled with vigor, and they flowed endlessly. Zhu Yao was dumbfounded when she heard this. Thank you, you just feel that I'm disgusting. What's with this feeling of hitting the jackpot? Ling Tian girly, are you sure you're not blind? FAU cursed at Fan Jishan for exactly 2 hours, and he did not repeat a single sentence. His curses could be said to be brilliant, and could even surpass the ancients and dazzle contemporaries. If Fan Jishan were to hear this, even if she did not die from anger, she would feel that she had mistreated her own ears. Only when the sun had set in the west, did FAU wave his hand and say, I'm going to drink some water. Only then did he stop his endless stream of curses. Zhu Yao's expression darkened. She had no choice but to follow after him. Yet, she silently maintained a distance of 3 meters, in order to avoid being sprayed by him. Chapter 316. FAU gulped down 3 large cups of water before he stopped, and let out a long sigh of relief. Just when Zhu Yao thought that he was going to continue scolding her, he suddenly turned his head, looked at her with a "you're a piece of trash" expression, and coldly said, 3 days later, that trash will succeed the position of sect master. What trash? The topic had changed too quickly, so she had to take a break first. I don't know what method that trash used to actually awaken the spirit guiding beast, FAU said with a cold expression. So the trash was referring to the female lead. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched, and she humbly asked for guidance. What's a spirit guiding beast? A demonic beast? He had never heard of such a demonic beast. The spirit guiding beast is the guardian beast of Spirit Heaven Palace. FAU looked at her like she was an idiot. Born at the 9th level, they can advance to the 10th level when they reach adulthood. As long as they pass through the heavenly thunder tribulation, they can ascend. The spirit guiding beast can only be summoned by the sect master of Spirit Heaven Palace, and it's only willing to contract with the sect master. Ling Tian can't summon the spirit guiding beast? Zhu Yao asked. Impossible. FAU glared at her. Tian Tian is the true sect master of Spirit Heaven sect. However, the spirit guiding beast is born in the heavenly profound cave, and needs 100 years to break out of its shell. Back then, when Tian Tian was in Spirit Heaven Palace, that beast was still an egg. Of course, he couldn't forcefully awaken them before they were even born. God knows what method that trash used to force the spirit-guiding beast to hatch in advance. Was this the case? Though Zhu Yao did not doubt Ling Tian's identity. Otherwise, in the scenario, the world wouldn't have collapsed after her death. She was worried about what the female lead was going to do. My Tian Tian is the true sect master of Spirit Heaven Palace, the true daughter of heaven. That trash is nothing, Fau said matter-of-factly. As though he had recalled some beautiful memories, he grumbled. Back then, when my Tian Tian first arrived at Spirit Heaven Palace, I knew that she was the best in the world. How could the other trash compare to her? I don't even want to use it to pat her shoes, okay? So what if she's the sect master of Spirit Heaven Palace? She's worthy of the best in this world. Otherwise, there's no need for me to scheme so much and damage my own cultivation just to grow up with her. If it wasn't for the sake of shutting up those old fellows' mouths and proving that I'm worthy of her, would there be a need for me to leave her and come to this damned place like Grand Hall Sect to be some sect master? I just want to protect her every day. Watch over her. Look at her. Zhu Yao silently turned her head. She seemed to have found out about something incredible. Halfway through his complaints, he suddenly turned his head to look at Zhu Yao at the side, as though he had just recalled that she was beside him. His face was full of shock. You. He glared at her. Murderous aura surged. You're not allowed to tell Tian Tian, or I'll teach you a lesson. Yes, President. No problem, President. I won't say it even if you beat me to death. Zhu Yao immediately made an oath. I won't tell this girl about how you've been secretly in love with Ling Tian since young, and how you've planned an entire lowly grooming plan. But, what? His killing intent intensified. Ling Tian girlie seems to be able to hear our words the entire time. CEO Fa, who was cool, arrogant and loved to ridicule, instantly became like an exploding tomato, completely red. The next moment, he suddenly ran out of the door like a deserter, as if there was a ghost chasing after him. He even accidentally tripped over the doorsill and fell with a bang, but he immediately got up and ran away. What happened to the promise of teaching me a lesson? A long while later, Ling Tian. Little you is so cute. Zhu Yao. But hey, which part of him is cute? She only sees that he's a pervert, alright? In order to play the lowly grooming plan, he damaged his own cultivation and turned into a child, pretending to be a childhood sweetheart or something. He's simply too hardcore, alright? It was no wonder Ling Tian was only at the foundation stage, while Fau was already at the nascent soul stage. This childhood sweetheart was actually an act. Ever since Fau found out that Ling Tian girlie was watching every single word he said to Zhu Yao, his entire being felt uncomfortable. He didn't know what he did, but he didn't appear for 2 days straight. With the body of the former sect master of Spirit Heaven Palace, Zhu Yao couldn't simply walk around as she pleased. She had no choice but to stay in the house from before, to prevent herself from being discovered. On the 3rd day, Fau finally appeared with a nervous look. However, compared to the look of disdain he had when he first saw her, this time, it was much more normal and peaceful. No, it was much more. Tian. He looked at her timidly, a nervous expression on his face. Are you angry at me? I'm sorry, I'm Ma Liang. Zhu Yao raised her hand and said. His expression stiffened, and then he immediately revealed a gentle smile. His eyes seemed to be blooming with flowers as he said. Miss Ma, I'm sorry. My attitude back then was wrong. I apologize to you. Yo, did the sun rise from the west? This venomous pervert, he changed his personality so quickly? Also, what's with Miss Ma? You're here to help Tian Tian, so you can be considered as our benefactor. I should be thanking you instead. With a sincere look, he suddenly took out a bottle from his bosom and passed it to her. Back then, I didn't know how far I went, and I don't know if I've hurt you, miss. I offer this healing panacea as a token of my sincerity. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. She stared at the bottle he handed over, yet, she did not reach out to receive it. Are you sure this is a healing panacea? He smiled with an innocent look. Of course, this is the best healing panacea my grand hall has. Then why are the 3 words soul parting soup pasted on the bottle? Do you think I'm blind? Fau retracted his smile. Tch. He forgot to tear it. In an instant, he returned to his previous expression of disdain. His face looked as though he was flipping through a book. The hell, this guy is definitely doing it on purpose, right? He's just trying to make me leave Ling Tian Girly's body, right? Seeing that he had been seen through, Fau no longer had any interest in continuing his act. Hey, put this on. Raising his hand, he tossed something towards her. Zhu Yao caught it and realized it was a bracelet. The bracelet was covered in layers of formations, and the spiritual energy it exuded was oppressive. It was a 7th-rank mystic artifact. She put it on, and in an instant, a circle of light swept across her entire body. This mystic artifact can conceal your appearance, Fau explained with an impatient look. Even demigod practitioners might not be able to see through you. Zhu Yao materialized a water mirror with a wave of her hand. As expected, her appearance had changed. Her 5 senses were leaning towards ordinary, and she belonged to the type that would not be recognized even if she was thrown into a crowd. You're giving me this for? Fau would not give her something like this for no reason. Tomorrow, that trash will gather the various clans and sects to observe the ceremony, and officially become the sect master of Spirit Heaven Palace. Fau rolled his eyes at her. His face was filled with disdain. However, his attitude was much better than before. In the past, the gaze he used to look at her with would always be, "You disgusting piece of trash." When he looked at her now, he would always first use his gaze to ask if Ling Tian was looking at him, before switching to, "You piece of trash." She was still trash, but she was no longer disgusting. She was a very contented person. Though Chao Qi made up an excuse of twins, those old men in Spirit Heaven Palace aren't fools either. It's impossible for them to be completely unaware. Though trash has awakened the spirit guiding beast, she might not be able to make it recognize her as its master. If she wishes to seize back the position of sect master, she can only do so now. You want Ling Tian to return and subdue that spirit guiding beast, so as to prove her identity. This was indeed an opportunity. Right now, Fan Jishan believed that Ling Tian was already dead, so she probably wouldn't put much of her guard up. Furthermore, she would never have guessed that Zhu Yao would charge back so boldly. However, if you do this, it's equivalent to falling out with Fan Jishan. One must know that she's from the number 1 deity sect, Drifting Sect, and there are still many people behind her. Spirit Heaven Palace is merely a part of her forces. If she were to turn around and deal with Grand Hall Sect, let's talk about the future in the future. Tian can't be slandered by her for nothing. Fau frowned, and said with a furious look, if she were to really become the sect master of Spirit Heaven Palace today, Tian would have no place to hide in the future. Zhu Yao did not persuade her any further. Indeed, it was impossible to guard against Tian if she were to hide. She might as well throw away all pretenses openly. At the very least, Fan Jishan would not dare to make a move on her in the near future. Early in the morning on the second day, Fau brought a large group of disciples and headed towards Spirit Heaven Palace. She had specially selected a portion of people from the various disciples, and they even had foundation pellets. Zhu Yao was mixed among the foundation disciples, and there were a total of 30 or so of them. It seemed like she had given Spirit Heaven Palace enough face. When they arrived at Spirit Heaven Palace, Chao Qi came out to welcome them. This was the first time Zhu Yao had seen male number N, Chao Qi. She had to admit that he had a good look. With a cultivation at the middle stages of nascent soul, he looked like a gentleman. Politely, he led Fau into the inner hall. Zhu Yao's status wasn't high enough, so she had no choice but to stand guard outside the hall along with the other disciples. Only then did she begin to size up Spirit Heaven Palace. Compared to the other divine sects, Spirit Heaven Palace was formed by several floating mountains. The floating mountain she was staying on was the main mountain of the main hall at the very center, but it wasn't the largest one. Not far away in front of her, there was another floating mountain that was even larger than the main hall. However, compared to the palaces, pavilions, and spiritual energy residences here, the floating mountain on the opposite side was filled with lush greenery, and there didn't seem to be any signs of human habitation. She faintly felt that it was strange. Logically speaking, the spiritual energy there was denser, so why wasn't the main hall built there, and instead built on this spiritual mountain? This question flashed past her mind, but she did not delve into it. She could not help but raise her head to look at a place shrouded in clouds. She could faintly make out the silhouette of a pavilion. That was the cave residence of the sect master of Spirit Heaven Palace. The spiritual energy there was the densest, and it was also the place where she woke up back then. Sovereign Paisher of Drifting Stream Clan has arrived. Following the announcement, a person flew over from afar. His entire body was glowing brightly, and he was dressed in a blue robe. He stood tall and straight, and his entire body was filled with an indescribable aura. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. This man's entrance even brought along his own lighting effects. It seemed like he was the first male lead, the master of the female lead. It was pretty shocking, if not for the fact that half of the light was missing, as though it was being blocked by something. Wait a minute. Just what in the world was that light? When Zhu Yao was about to take a closer look, the light on Sovereign Paisher's body disappeared again. Was it a misconception caused by the sun being too big? When she regained her senses, that person had already landed on the ground. The people from the various sects and clans who came to participate in the succession ceremony came out one after another, greeting Sovereign Paisher. Thanks to my kin Nangongcheng. He sure buys reward, and an update is offered. Initially, he was on sick leave to rest at home, but after receiving a reward, he crawled out of bed to write an update. 3 updates was already his limit. I'll go lie down. P.S. Only paper. Chapter 317. Paisher nodded one by one. A joyful cry came from the sky. Master! Fan Jishan flew down from above and quickly walked towards Paisher. She said with some surprise and shyness, "Why are you here? How can I not come to your succession ceremony?" Paisher said with a serious look on his face. "Thank you, Master." Fan Jishan looked at him affectionately, then turned to look at the people from the other sections. She said a few welcoming words politely, then led everyone into the hall. Paisher walked at the very front, and Fan Jishan followed closely behind. Just as they were about to step into the hall, for some reason, her eyes swept towards Zhu Yao's direction. Suddenly, she widened her eyes, and her footsteps paused. Zhu Yao's heart skipped a beat, and she suddenly had a bad premonition. What happened? Paisher was the first to notice his disciple's abnormality. Following her gaze, he looked towards Zhu Yao, who was not far away, carrying a few probing divine senses and a hint of displeasure. Fuck, don't tell me he recognized me. Zhu Yao subconsciously touched the mystic artifact in her hands. Suppressing the panic in the depths of her heart, she stood on the spot with a calm expression. It's nothing. I just saw a disciple who caught my eye. Fan Jishan lightly replied. A gentle smile rose from the corner of her lips, and she walked straight towards Zhu Yao's direction. This little sister, I like you a lot the moment I laid eyes on you. I wonder which sect's disciple are you from? Are you willing to acknowledge me as your master? Ah! Not only Zhu Yao, everyone present was a little confused as well. Wasn't this the inauguration ceremony? Why did he accept a disciple? Furthermore, the other party was a disciple from another sect. She laughed out loud and said with a kind face, "You don't have to be afraid. We cultivators pay particular attention to fate. Meeting you today is fate. I really like you, and I want to take you in as my personal disciple." As soon as she said this, everyone present understood. A cultivator could only have one direct disciple, so they attached great importance to accepting a direct disciple, unless they met someone who was especially fated to be their disciple. Thus, becoming a personal disciple didn't just depend on one's talent. It all depended on fate. It was not easy to find one. No wonder he wanted to snatch it. Zhu Yao's heart, on the other hand, felt tense and relaxed. What the hell was this female lead doing? Did he recognize her or not? By the way, I haven't asked your name yet. Hehe, my name is Ma Liang. He could only rely on his acting skills. Ma Liang. Fan Jishan sized her up. The more he looked, the hotter his eyes became. Zhu Yao could not help but break out in cold sweat, as she felt that there was something strange about that expression of hers. It can't be that he eats both men and women, right? Yamighty, I sell my body, not my skills. Which sect are you from? Are you willing to be my direct disciple? If I reject a lesbian, can I not slap my face? She's a disciple of my Grand Hall sect. Before she could even speak up, FAU's voice sounded. Zhu Yao instantly heaved a sigh of relief. As expected, when it came to acting skills, the best actor had to compete with the best actress. Fan Jishan was stunned at first, then she called out coquettishly, "Big brother FAU." FAU turned to look at her. His gaze was conflicted, as though it contained love, pain, disappointment, and other emotions. The technical content was too high. Zhu Yao expressed that she was unable to count them all. Taking a deep breath, FAU retracted the emotions in his eyes, restoring his cold expression. He portrayed a man who had his heart broken, and had no choice but to draw a clear line between himself and her, with great depth. Only Zhu Yao could tell that the latter part was his true character. Most probably he was already organizing his lines to scold the other party. The ones who came this time are all elite disciples of my Grand Hall sect. Forgive me for not having any plans to exchange disciples with sect master Fan. Fan Jishan immediately looked at him with a wronged expression, and gently called out, "Big brother FAU." FAU, however, had already turned around and entered the hall, completely ignoring her. Her expression stiffened, and she had no choice but to suppress the thoughts in the depths of her heart. She called for everyone to enter the hall, and continued with her succession ceremony. However, she did not forget to turn her head back, and looked at Zhu Yao a few times with reluctance. Zhu Yao's hair instantly stood up, as she stood perfectly straight. The female lead did not know that she was brought here by FAU, which meant that she basically did not recognize her. Otherwise, she would not have taken such a huge detour, and even used the excuse of taking her in as a direct disciple. But why did she see her in a single glance? And she seemed to have developed a huge interest in her. With the scheming nature of the female lead, it was impossible for her to do something like this without a reason. If it wasn't for fame, then it was for benefits. But she was merely a foundation disciple. What was there for her to care about? Why did she not look at anyone else, but only her? Unless there was something on her that other people couldn't see, but she could? Just what in the world was it? Zhu Yao faintly felt that she had grasped onto something. Yet she just couldn't find the most crucial point. The succession ceremony had already begun in the hall. The 3 hall masters of the 4 halls were already seated at the 2 sides of the main seat. Chao Qi raised the sect master's tablet, loudly read out an official speech, and was just about to solemnly hand it over to Fan Jishan. Wait a moment. FAU suddenly stood up and interrupted. Chao Qi turned to look at FAU, and his face was filled with dissatisfaction. FAU, what's the meaning of this? Nothing much, I'm just a little curious. FAU still said with a cold expression. I heard that spiritual master Fan and the previous sect master share the same mother. Back then they carried the wrong person, which is why they returned to Spirit Heaven Palace. Of course this is something that everyone knows. Chao Qi nodded. They had long announced this matter to the world, and by now, the entire cultivation world was already aware of it. Then that's strange. FAU coldly snorted. They're actually twins from the same mother. On what basis did Spirit Heaven Palace determine that the previous sect master was fake, and the current sect master is the real one? Chao Qi was instantly enraged, as though someone was intentionally finding fault with him. Is there even a need to ask? Jishan is able to awaken our sect's guardian sacred beast, the spirit guiding beast. Isn't that enough proof? Oh, is that so? FAU swept his eyes across his surroundings. Throughout my journey here, why haven't I seen that awakened guardian sacred beast? When he said that, the people from the other sects began to discuss amongst themselves as well. For the previous sect master to suddenly change their sect masters before their lifespan was up, this was a rare occurrence among the various sects in the first place, let alone something as ridiculous as twins recognizing the wrong person. It was very hard to convince the masses. You Just as Chao Qi was about to flare up, he was pulled back by Fan Jishan, who shook her head at him. Instead, she turned around and looked at Fau with a sorrowful expression. Big brother Fau, are you still blaming me? The corner of Fau's lips twitched. Just as he was about to collapse, he immediately turned his head around coldly, and had almost scolded out the word trash. However, Fan Jishan thought that he was silently admitting it. Letting out a long sigh, she turned to look at the crowd present. Ha, I know that everyone has doubts in their hearts. Initially, this humble one had planned to form a life and death contract with the spirit guiding beast after taking over the position of sect master. If everyone has any doubts, we can just form a contract with the spirit guiding beast first. As she said that, she turned around and led the crowd out of the hall. Flying on her sword, they headed towards the largest mountain amongst the mountains. Seeing the crowd coming out, she knew that Fau had already settled the matter. She immediately followed after them on her sword. Fan Jishan stopped at a spot not far away from the floating mountain. She took out a tablet and tossed it into the air. Like an egg with its skin peeled off, the lush green of the floating mountain earlier began to fade away layer by layer, revealing a white mountain that looked as though it was made of crystals. Spirit Stone Peak. Someone cried out in surprise. Sounds of praises resounded one after another. The entire floating mountain was actually made of spirit stones. It was no wonder the spiritual energy in Spirit Heaven Palace was so dense. Fan Jishan was very satisfied with the crowd's exclamations. With a smile, she flew towards the center of the entire mountain. The crowd followed after her, and only when they got closer did they see a gigantic cave dwelling at the center of the mountain. In the entire Spirit Stone Mountain, it was the place with the densest spiritual energy. Even the surrounding spiritual energy seemed as though it was about to materialize. A person stood in front of the cave. He was dressed in a green robe, and he looked very handsome. However, the corners of his eyes were slightly raised. He was clearly a man, yet he carried an indescribable charm. When he saw the crowd approaching, he first frowned. His eyes were filled with undisguised contempt, and then, he turned to look at Fan Jishan with a smile. Bai Li, Fan Jishan called out. Her eyes were filled with inquiry. That man reached out and pulled her into his embrace. With a wanton smile on his face, he nodded slightly, as though he was responding. His eyes subtly looked towards Sovereign Paisher, who was behind them. As expected, Paisher furrowed his brows. Zhu Yao silently observed everyone's little movements. It seemed like this Bai Li was that 10th-ranked demonic beast. The female lead sure had heavy tastes. However, looking at how this beast was interacting with the others, it did not seem like their relationship was particularly harmonious. It seemed like no matter how incredible the protagonist's halo was, it was still unable to overcome the nature of beasts. She could faintly guess what method the female lead used to awaken the spirit-guiding beast. Most likely, this 10th-ranked demonic beast's help was involved. Everyone. Fan Jishan withdrew from Bai Li's embrace, turned around, and cupped her hands towards the crowd. Today, I hope that fellow practitioners can bear witness. I will now summon my sect's guardian sacred beast, the spirit-guiding beast. She formed a seal with one hand, and with a wave of her hand, a series of white lights flashed in front of the gigantic spiritual cave. A gigantic figure could be faintly seen from within, as though something was being lifted up high and then dropped down. Even the entire spirit mountain trembled. Those were actually the footsteps of the other party. Before the crowd could even see the demonic beast's true body, an immense pressure was already assaulting them, causing their hearts to tremble. Ling Tiangirli. Zhu Yao transmitted her voice into her body. She planned on exchanging control of her body with the demonic beast once it came out. If the spirit-guiding beast could only form a contract with the sect master of Spirit Heaven Palace, she would not be able to do it. She had to do it herself. Amen, I understand, Saintess. Ling Tian responded. In the next moment, Zhu Yao began to gradually release her control over her body, planning on sinking into her dantian. At the same time, the spirit-guiding beast that attracted the crowd's exclamations slowly walked out of the cave as well, and its figure grew clearer. Fan Jishan smiled with a complacent look. The demonic beast had completely walked out of the cave, revealing a gigantic demonic beast with 6 wings and a green face. It even let out a long roar towards the sky, and its voice shook the blood of everyone present. Oh. Chapter 318. The female lead raised both of her hands up high, and loudly said, "Spirit guiding beast, my most loyal companion, are you willing to form a contract with me?" Zhu Yao's movements of releasing her control paused, as she turned around and squeezed Ling Tian girly who had just come online. "Saint." That beastie lowered its head and spoke in human language. Zhu Yao's face was filled with shock. "Sesame." She could not help but blurt out. Halfway through its words, that demonic beast's body suddenly trembled, and even its 3 pairs of wings trembled. It suddenly turned its head, and with its large bell-like eyes, it looked straight in the direction of the crowd. Its entire beast head began to twist, as though it was about to reveal a smile. However, it only revealed a mouthful of sharp beast fangs, making it look even more terrifying. Ayo! That beast leapt, and suddenly pounced towards the crowd. With a loud bang, it smashed and injured a few practitioners along the way, and finally stopped in front of Zhu Yao, staring straight at her. Mistress. Zhu Yao's expression darkened. It really was it. Mistress. Sesame's entire beast was dazzling, and it immediately pounced forward. It did not care if it would squash Zhu Yao, and constantly rubbed that beast head that was even larger than her entire body against her body. It cried out with grievance. Mistress, it's really you. This beastie can't be dreaming, right? You weren't here, I missed you so much. Ew. How can you leave beastie behind? I'm your beast in life, and I'm your dead beast in death. I don't want to leave you anymore. It whined and complained, completely ignoring the crowd of onlookers whose jaws had long dropped from shock. Crowd. Was this really a high-ranked demonic beast? They had never seen such a shameless one, right? Sesame carefully inspected Zhu Yao with tears of grievance. Mistress, look at you. I can barely recognize you. Mistress, you actually have breasts this time. So mystical. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched, as she raised her leg and kicked it. Scram. Mystical my ass. If you don't bring up this lady's sad matters, you'll die. I finally have breasts, and you're still borrowing them, alright? Sesame was kicked by her spiritual energy-infused kick, and instantly rolled on the ground. She did not show any signs of anger, and instead, she crawled back with a rippling look. Ew. Mistress, your kicks are still as powerful as ever. Soul-piercing. How nostalgic. Come on, don't be shy, kick me again. After saying that, it instantly shrank back to the size of a large dog, and flipped over to reveal its white belly. I'm ready. Master. Come on, don't cherish me just because I'm a delicate flower. Kick me hard. Zhu Yao, that Fanjishan. That everyone. 5 words floated down from the sky. What the hell is this? Zhu Yao felt as though the veins on her head were about to explode, as she took a deep breath. She chuckled at the crowd and said, Sorry, please give me 5 minutes. She needed to adjust the mode of her beastie. Picking up Sesame with a single hand, he formed a hand seal with a single hand, and 4 walls of earth rose around him, blocking everyone's line of sight. Not long after, screams that tore through the sky came from inside. Master. You really hit me, Yamit. Ouch, 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 ouch. I'm going to die, I'm going to die, I'm going to die. Don't hit my face. Wait, you can't hit that place. Oh, I was wrong, Master. The screams lasted for exactly 5 minutes, and each scream was more miserable than the last. Those who heard it would basically feel sad, and those who heard it would cry. However, no matter what cultivation level the practitioners present possessed, none of them released their divine sense to investigate the situation inside the earth walls. Instead, they turned their heads away in a tacit manner. 5 minutes later, the earth walls finally disappeared, revealing 2 figures inside. One was a refreshed young lady, while the other was a youth with a swollen face. Spirit guiding beast. Fanjishan finally regained her senses, as she looked at Sesame with a look of disbelief. Sesame, who had turned into a human, was much more normal. He basically did not care about her, and simply held on to his swollen face, as he sucked in cold air. Though the demonic beast called by Li beside her, took a step forward, and looked at Sesame a little anxiously. Lord, how can you do this? Sesame glared at him. Shut up. Can't you see this daddy's backyard is on fire? Was it easy for him to find his master? He even had to suffer domestic violence. Backyard. Zhu Yao glared at him. Sesame's expression stiffened. No. How can mistress be the backyard? You're the front yard, the absolute front yard. I'm the backyard, I'm the little beastie in your backyard. Lord. Bai Li still did not give up. Didn't you agree to form a contract with Jishan? Contract? Zhu Yao turned to look at Sesame with a smile that was not a smile. She had a look of, now that you've grown up, you've gotten a big idea. Yet you still dare to form a contract with someone else? Sesame's body trembled, as he immediately glared at Bai Li. This person was here to tear down his stage, right? Who agreed to it? Earlier, I only said that I would pretend to acknowledge her as my master, and help you guys out. I don't want to form a contract with you. I only have one master. As he said that, he immediately turned to look at Zhu Yao with a flattering look, and said with a trembling voice. Oh. Mistress. Can you even stand up and speak? Stop hugging her thighs. Zhu Yao reached out her hand, and turned his twisted pig head around. If she looked at that expression for too long, she would have nightmares. Even a fool could tell that this spirit-guiding beast had acknowledged this unknown young lady as its master. You. Just who are you? Chao Qi stood out with a furious look. A great succession ceremony was just about to succeed, yet someone actually intercepted it midway. Zhu Yao couldn't be bothered to continue her act either. She immediately took down the mystic artifact that concealed her appearance, revealing her original appearance. In an instant, the expressions of Fan Jishan and the people of Spirit Heaven Palace changed. The female lead's face especially was pale. She looked at Fan Jishan and chuckled. Long time no see, my good little sister. Oh right, I forgot to introduce myself to everyone. I'm Ling Tian, the former sect master of Spirit Heaven Palace. She intentionally emphasized on the word former. In an instant, as though a pot had exploded, discussions broke out. As for Fan Jishan and her group of men, their faces all darkened. I heard I suddenly gained a younger sister. Zhu Yao swept her eyes around, and then looked at Fan Jishan with a smile. Letting out a long sigh, she said, I've been cultivating for dozens of years, and I'm happy to have a relative. Although you look. She purposely looked her up and down. The only thing she didn't say was that she was ugly. You look so different from me. I believe you. However, you said that Spirit Heaven Palace had carried the wrong person back then. I don't agree with that. It's not like they're blind. Of course, I'm not saying that you're ugly. Everyone. That was clearly the case. If you want to enter Spirit Heaven Palace, just tell me directly. Why must you come to Spirit Stone Mountain and provoke my contracted spiritual beast? It must be known that though Sesame is already a 10th rank beastie, it's very timid. It can't stand people who look unattractive. What if it gets frightened? Oh, isn't that right, Sesame? Sesame immediately nodded in agreement. Mistress is the most beautiful, mistress is the best, mistress is the most awesome. The discussions of the various sects and clans grew even louder. This was clearly a good show of impersonation and a power struggle. Everyone looked at Fan Jishan with reproachful gazes. The hall masters of Spirit Heaven Palace could not hold it in any longer. Other than Chao Qi, every single one of them glared at Fan Jishan furiously. Just what in the world is going on? Sect Master Fan, you must give us an explanation. Back then, you were the one who said that you had awakened the spirit guiding beast. That's why we believed you. What Sect Master Fan? The spirit guiding beast doesn't acknowledge her at all. She's a liar. The inheritance of our Spirit Heaven Palace for so many years was almost destroyed by her. As expected of the female lead. Even in a situation like this, she was still able to pretend to be weak. With teary eyes, she looked at the crowd with an innocent look. I didn't. You've all misunderstood. Unfortunately, the people of Spirit Heaven Palace were currently in a fit of rage and completely ignored her weak look. There were even people who had summoned their weapons and were about to step forward to capture her. Suddenly, a demigod stage pressure instantly enveloped the crowd. Those few agitated Spirit Heaven Palace disciples were especially pressed onto the ground by the pressure. The crowd instantly quieted down, as everyone raised their heads to look at the only demigod stage practitioner present, Sovereign Pai Shi. Sovereign, what's the meaning of this? The sect master of Spirit Heaven Palace asked in dissatisfaction. Sovereign Pai Shi took a step forward and immediately stood in front of Fan Jishan. His ice-cold eyes swept across the crowd and finally stopped on Zhu Yao. His brows furrowed, and a hint of killing intent unconsciously leaked out. Sesame, who was still hugging onto Zhu Yao's thigh earlier, instantly exploded. It released its aura completely as well, blocking the pressure from earlier. Pai Shi was startled. He clenched his fists and retracted his pressure. With a solemn voice he said, "Everyone, today's matter is just a misunderstanding. My disciple was just too eager to acknowledge her, which is why so many things happened. It's because this one did not discipline her well. However, Jishan is still a disciple of my sect. I will personally bring her back to punish her. There's no need for you all to do it for me." The people of Spirit Heaven Palace were furious. He was clearly trying to protect his disciple. Pai Shi immediately snorted coldly. Other than that demonic beast, which was a little harder to deal with, he really did not put the others in his eyes. It wasn't that they couldn't fight, but they were the ones in the wrong today after all. If they were to make a move, it would most likely affect Ripple Sect's reputation. If anyone feels that anything is amiss, feel free to look for me. After saying that, without waiting for the crowd's response, he immediately brought Fan Jishan and left with an arrogant look. That 10th-ranked demonic beast called Bai Li followed closely behind the two of them as well. The various sects and clans all had different expressions on their faces. Zhu Yao shook her head. Pai Shi's protectiveness was indeed a little too rash. He was a little too arrogant. If his strength was enough to suppress everyone in the cultivation world, then so be it. If he was as strong as her own master, and no one dared to make a sound, perhaps the crowd would indeed endure it. However, he just had to be a demigod stage practitioner. Though there were very few demigod stage practitioners, he was not the only one in the cultivation world. As for the other first-rate deity sects, it was still possible to gather 3 or 4 of them. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.